Good evening. I'll call to order July 1st, 2025 Fairfield Plan and Zoning Commission special meeting. I'll start with our meeting minutes from June 24th and June 26th. I have a motion on the item. Commissioner Levy,
Move to approve with one correction. The matter of 467 Punxsutawney Road, 80 Soundview had been heard prior to the interference. Minutes should be amended to correct that.
and that's on the 24th,
On
right?
the 24th, yes.
Is there a second? Commissioner Porcillo seconds. Further?
Nothing.
Commissioner Porcillo, anything further?
I had provided some additional minor changes to the June 26th minutes. So I would request that those be made. There was a title change and then like the 1916 Post Road. I provided those two.
Sarah, can you have those? Or nobody has those and they're
Denise has, yes.
fine? Sarah, they're accurate
Yes.
in your mind, okay? Do you, friendly amendment, do you
Of course.
object? Any objections from the commission? Hearing none, so the motion is amended as such. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Delgado, you're gonna be sitting in on this or unless you're not up to speed.
Not up to speed on 26th, that wasn't present.
Okay, that's fine, we'll just reflect that, I'm up to speed. Everybody else is up to speed? Can we put this to a vote? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. It passes unanimously with Commissioner Delgado not being involved with the 26th. I would like to take a few items out of order because we are going to be moving public hearings to date certains. So unless there's an objection, we'll be quick. Moving to items in public hearing, items 8 through 10. Zoning regulation amendment application of Karski Investments to establish Reef Road Housing Zone, 810 and 820 Reef Road and 155 Forest Avenue. Application to establish housing zone on land presently zoned residential B. Again, 10, 812, 820 Reef Road and 155 Forest Avenue zoning compliance and coastal site plan application for a 45 unit development pursuant to 830G. I'd like to open these items, calling them to open them, and then requesting that the commission table them to July 8th, which is next week's meeting. That's been discussed with the attorneys and considering where we are with our workload, that seems to be the best scheduling that we can do. With that, can I have a motion, please? Commissioner Corsillo,
Motion to table to
and both three items, 8 through 10, there are seconds. Commissioner Levy seconds. Commissioner Corsillo, any comments? Levy?
None.
Questions, comments from the commission? Put this to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. See however many hands, 6 hands, passes unanimously. Right, 6, yeah. Next, I would call 11 through 13 in the public hearing, zoning regulation amendment application of Shapiro Commons LLC to establish a new Stilson housing zone. 430 and 452 Stilson Road. Application to establish a Stilson housing zone on land presently zoned Residence A, 430, 452 Stilson Road, application of Shapiro Commons, 68 unit residential development pursuant to section 830G of the Connecticut statutes. Again, I'm calling them to open them to public hearing and the request of the applicant and working with our staff. We table all items and items 11 through 13 to July 22nd. A motion, please, Commissioner Corsillo.
move to table those three items to July 22nd.
Thank you. Is there a second? Levy seconds. Anything further?
Nothing further.
Comments or questions from the commission?
Was that the 22nd or the 27th?
Second, July 22nd. Put this to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Passes unanimously. For the sake of anybody in the public, again, they won't be heard tonight. They'll be heard at the respective dates. Free to leave, free to stay, however you like, if that's why you're here, but, we're gonna get to them this evening anyway, so I wanted to make sure everybody knew that up front. All right, back to where we were. Our administrative session, discussion and possible decision concerning the settlement of pending litigation. 15 Uncwool Road, 15 Uncwool Road LLC versus Town Plan and Zoning Commission of the Town of Fairfield, Connecticut. Court docket designation HHD CV 226163-135 and AC 48473. Litigation involves real property known as 15 Uncwool Road located in Fairfield, which is designated as 180 parcel 243 by the assessor of the Town of Fairfield. Yeah, I'll read the whole thing, just put it in the record. Subject property is owned by 15 Uncwool Road LLC. The matter involves two applications. Zone text amendment to the Center Business Design District Zone Regulations and a site plan or zoning compliance approval for 63 unit multifamily development of the subject property. Proposed residential development currently includes an affordable housing component as provided by section 830G of the Connecticut General Statutes. The public meeting or hearing will be held pursuant to section 14-7B sub J of the Connecticut Practice Book and sections 8.3, 8.8 sub N and 830G of the Connecticut General Statutes. Materials associated with the settlement discussions can be reviewed by the public. I think we can stop there. Okay. So let me tee this up for the commission and for the applicants. We heard this application however many years ago for an 830G regulation amendment and site plan. It was at that time denied by the commission, resulting litigation appeal to Superior Court occurred. And in that, at least that Superior Court decision, court found substantially against the commission. A certification of a review to the appellate court was made, cert was granted at that time. And throughout the appeal in the civil court and in the appellate court, this commission and the applicant's attorney have been negotiating a settlement of the matter. And we've come to a point where I believe we've got a decent framework in mind for subject to this public hearing, public comments, and final review and approval by this commission. So at the time, the application was an 830G application with respect to the amendments and to the site plan. The settlement while this is a settlement of the current litigation plan, the proposed regulations, the proposed site plan are not 830G related. They're under the guise of the settlement, but they are amendments to our existing regulations. Site plan, if approved, would be under those current existing regulations. We recently amended our downtown regulations to which this parcel is a part of. And I think as we will discuss at this hearing or at this matter, the proposed regulations that we will be considering in the scope of this settlement are substantially similar to what we've already adopted, which I think is partly why we are in the position we are today. But with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant to give a presentation. This will operate as a usual public hearing, public comment thereafter. But again, it's under the guise of settlements of pending litigation. How was that, Attorney Smith?
I think that's a great summary and we should all go home. No, in all seriousness, for the record, my name is Chris Smith. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Zabel and Schallenberg. And I appear before you this evening on behalf of 15 Uncwool Road LLC, who is the applicant as well as the plaintiff in the litigation that the chair just referenced. And that brings us here this evening before you. On my right, your left is Dr. Lee Forrest, who is the sole principal of the LLC and has been the owner of the property. It's been in his family since for many, many years, 50, 40, how many years has it been in the family? Over 100. There we go. Over 100 years. And at the outset, one thing, Mr. Chairman, there were two other items that were on the agenda. And I believe one is maybe referenced, at least maybe one of the earlier agendas or a notice with the text amendment.
Oh, the subject, B and C then. Let me call them all together then.
And I thought, my understanding was that the commission had and had worked and provided that additional notice to the public by having that published, those two items published in the paper. But this is, as you indicated, the consideration of a settlement under the Connecticut Practice Book, Section 14.7B and subsection J, as well as 8.8N and 8.830G. But perhaps maybe to make that clear that all those three
Are you
items.
referring to B and C?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, okay, so let me call them so that we can discuss this because this is all together. Zoning regulation amendment application of 15 Uncle Will Road LLC to add section 12.3.29 to create mixed use development within a residential housing opportunity or workforce housing component to allow the construction of affordable multifamily housing. And 15 Uncle Road compliance application of 15 Uncle Road LLC pertaining to the construction of a mixed use development as shown on plans entitled Center Commons, 15 Uncle Road, Fairfield, Connecticut, dated June 12, 2025, and prepared by Biggest Associate Incorporated. Okay, so again, we are discussing all items within administrative session 2, so 2A, 2B, and 2C.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And at the outset, I'd like to, on behalf of my client, Dr. Lee Forrest, extend our appreciation to the commission, as well as to Planning Director Harrigan, as well as Attorney Baldwin, relative to the efforts taken to see if we could resolve the issues that were raised with the appeal for the commission. And I respectfully submit, and I'll just provide a very brief summary, that I think the text amendment and the proposed modifications to the site development are more consistent with what I understand the commission had been looking for prior to this application being filed and during any of the discussions after the application was submitted and acted upon. So at the outset, I wanted to indicate that. And with the permission of the chair, perhaps maybe I'll just provide a quick overview of some of the points relative to the site development that have been addressed. And some of those actually just roll into the text amendment.
Yeah, I think going through, hitting the high level stuff for the material terms of the text amendment and then going to the site plan makes sense.
Okay, so I'll start with the text amendment. And this is the text amendment is going to be, as it was proposed before, this will be a new subsection to the center design business district regulations in the town. It's adding a new subsection. Right now, the section of the regs end with 12.3.28. This will be a new 12.3.29. And this is going to be the title would be mixed use development with a residential housing opportunity or workforce housing component. And essentially, again, it'll be what the proposal wasn't until today. The proposal did not include a commercial component. The commission had been looking for a commercial component to be on the first floor of the subject building. That, as part of this resolution, has been included. And that's one of the major changes with the text amendment, is to provide that there be a mixed use, that there be commercial and residential. And there's provisions in the text amendment for the square footage. I think it's minimum 2,200 on the first floor, and there can be another 1,000 in the garage area for storage space. But that would be consistent with the site plan that's was submitted to the commission as for purposes of resolution of this matter. It also includes a mixed income component whereby a certain percentage, a certain number, and in this case, it's about 16% of the total number of units would qualify as affordable relative to being rented or sold to individuals or families at the 80% median income level for the town of Fairfield. And that's spelled out in the proposed stipulated judgment. One other component, so the regulations have been modified to provide for that. Also, as we experience, one of the things the commission wanted was that this carve out of the center design business district regs would only apply to this property. And that's similar to the court decision, our state Supreme Court decision in each matter, where the Supreme Court said you can have a particular set of regulations only apply to one property, and that's not spot zoning, to accommodate the provision for affordable housing opportunities in the state. The height of the building so the units have been reduced, the total number of units for what was proposed and what was approved by the court with the Superior Court decision, as the chair indicated, that was Judge Frazini. That was issued initially in August of 2024, excuse me, subject to a few other items being provided, which they were by the end of the year. So we modified his decision, and that is a final decision. So 63 units were approved by the court. I'll phrase it that way. As part of the resolution, the unit count will be reduced from 63 to 50 units. I would like to indicate that there are two components to the settlement, as the chair indicated. One is the zone text amendment that's consistent with the plan, and then the other is a site plan or zoning compliance certificate or application, which is how the commission likes to process applications. So two components: text amendment, the zoning compliance or site plan. One of the initial highlights, as the chair indicated, to touch upon is reducing the density from 63 to 50 units. Out of the 50 units, there will be 8 affordable units, as I indicated before. That's approximately 16%, just a little above 15%. And that's somewhat, I respectfully submit, consistent with your regulations for the district and other zones in town. The height of the building is going to be reduced from 66 feet to 56 feet, or 5 stories. Again, there will be a commercial component located on the first floor. In this case, it'll be 2,250 square feet of commercial space with approximately 1,000 square feet located in at the garage level storage to accommodate the commercial uses on the first floor. And those are the main points. What I would like to, with the text amendment that the commission has seen, and it's all been in the file for public review, relative to signage, there is provision for the residential use in the building, which the commission has seen already and approved. And I just wanted to clarify that hopefully this won't be an issue for the commission, but that the commercial space on the first floor, that would be subject to your signage requirements under section 29 of your regulations, just so that this isn't interpreted down the road to be exclusive of the commercial tenants. The commercial tenants would probably like to have some sort of signage, but that would be subject to your section 29 and have to meet any of those requirements. So that's the one caveat with the text amendment that I'd like to bring to the commission's attention. We did generate renderings for commission and public to review. So again, the height has been reduced by a floor. And this is, I'll just try to show it to as many people as I can. So this is the view. Here's Donnelly walkway from Umpqua. And before it was, again, it was some odd feet, 12 feet, I believe, approximately 12 feet higher and a story higher. So this is what it would look with the modifications from Umpqua. And if you're over in Sanford here, you can see Archie Moore's located in your bottom left. And this is what the view shed would look like from that location, just a little further down the street from Archie Moore's, looking back at the site. So I know that the commission was looking for a building that was shorter, wasn't as tall as initially proposed, and the commercial count, providing the commercial component, on the lower level, which has been done, which obviously is more consistent with the purpose of the center design business district here in Fairfield. So hopefully, Mr. Chairman, that's just trying to give you a quick summary in the public as to the major changes that have been discussed to date with the commission. Thank you.
Attorney Baldwin, Attorney Baldwin is our town attorney. Anything to add or supplement or amend or anything like that?
Yeah, I would just like to point out to the public and the commission that the backup document for the text amendment actually is the wrong version, but the correct version reflects all the changes that Attorney Smith just mentioned. And so that is the version that's going to be voted on and then subsequently approved, because this is all subject to court approval. This will be presented to the court at that time, assuming that this is approved by the commission tonight.
Just one quick comment. The other version actually was more expansive. It provided, had a higher, taller building. I think it might have been at 70 some odd feet. It also provided for a zone change. And there was one other element that I had for a second there and just lost.
It referenced, there were three modifications. So one was that signage could not be in the center design district. Our current design guidelines do not allow for internally illuminated signage. So that was a revision. The other one was the decrease in the height from 70 feet, 6 stories to 60 feet, 5 stories. And then the third item, there was an inadvertent reference to the need to rezone the parcel, which is not required as part of the proposed text amendments.
And
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And just to be clear, the two versions we're talking about are different versions of this
Same thing.
proposed text amendment, not something that existed several years ago. They're just different versions of the document.
And as we're voting on, the proposal today will be, as Ms. Harrigan just said, with the 3 amendments. Is that fair?
That is correct. So the final version that the commission is asked to act upon would be more restrictive.
Yeah, no, that's fine. As long as we're all on the same page, and we are.
I just wanted to make sure that was on the record.
I think
Thank
that's
you,
fair.
Mr. Chair.
Just questions for our Attorney Baldwin. You've been working on this, you believe, and you working with us on the settlement. I think you've reviewed the regulations, and as amended, as we discussed, they reflect what we've been discussing. So these regulations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's my understanding as well, but same question, Attorney, Ms.
Yes.
Harrigan. That was just a fair point to put out there. Okay, let's start with Attorney Smith. Questions for Attorney Smith?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So the height of the building now ties in with the height of the text amendment?
The height of the building will be, Commissioner Braun, 56 feet. And I am just looking for the height in the text amendment that you referenced. Turn to this page.
It lists 60 in the first amendment.
Yes, it was, we had 60 or, actually with planning director Harrigan just wanted to keep it at a straight number. So we didn't have to deal with how you define a story, which made sense. So the maximum height under the regulations is 60, but what's being approved by the commission is 56, correct?
And are there rooftop amenities or elevator shafts or anything like that above the 56 feet for this building?
Would you be able-
That's what brings in 56 to 60.
So I think the answer is yes. There are a shaft, maybe elevator shaft. We'll bring it up to 60, and that's why that was used. But that will be probably in the center of the building, hidden.
The elevators are actually on both ends.
Well, that's
One is hidden by the roof, the other one projects slightly over the roof.
Is the elevator shaft the only item on the roof, or is there HVAC also on the roof?
No, that's the only item.
And how high does the elevator shaft go?
It goes 4 feet beyond
56,
the
60.
56, which brings us to 60 foot.
Okay, and then how many parking spaces are there in this application? And how many, I guess you can't really, the text amendment, did that address parking also, the text amendment, or just, why don't we go with what this building provides for parking, off-street parking?
There would be 58 units off-street, Commissioner Braun.
Mhm.
In the regulations, I think the way that it ended up with the drafting
be on site.
was minimal, yeah, it was drafted to accommodate the amount here. And it was broken down with 1 unit per residential unit, well, excuse me, 1 parking space per residential unit, and I believe 2. Or assuming that there were potentially 4 tenants, I think that would be the 4 spaces over and above the 50 units. So it's 1 space per residential unit essentially.
And how
58.
many, yeah, so I'm getting 1.16 per unit when I divide 58 divided by 50 units.
Well, accommodates the commercial a little bit as well.
Oh, how many are dedicated to commercial?
Well, under the regulations, Commissioner Braun, there has to be a minimum of one space per residential unit and one space per commercial unit. That's under 12.295 subsection C. It's at page 4 of the red line version.
I don't, the red line version that's on the website is not the current version we're talking about, right? But the parking is accurate?
The parking did not change. The only components that changed are what Planning Director Harrigan referenced, which is the height of the building, that there not be any internal illumination on the signage, and that the height go down to the 60 feet, and that the zone change not be required.
Okay, so for parking then, how many spaces in this parking garage, which is all below grade, right, are dedicated to commercial versus residential?
I think that I think that that's been left flexible to the needs of the potential commercial tenants. If there's one commercial tenant that needs 2 spaces, then that would free up other spaces for the residential users.
So one space per commercial tenant?
Under the regs, again, there has to, yes, 1 space per commercial tenant minimum, and a minimum of 1 space for the residential. There's 50 residential units. If there ends up being one commercial tenant on the ground floor in the 2,250 square feet of space, they could have one space, or presumably they could have more, but there is enough provided for to meet the minimum requirements.
Okay, and two other questions. How many bedrooms are there? In the last one, there were 63 units, but that added up to 79 bedrooms. Are there a number of 2-bedroom units?
But they're all studio 1-bedroom.
There are
Pardon
2.
me?
Or 2 student,
In
2,
fact, the affordable component is broken down.
thank you, that's right.
4 units will be studios, 2 units will be one.
Thank you, yeah, I forgot that.
Do you have that breakdown? We had printed it. So Commissioner Braun, if you're ready, the studios, there will be 12 studios, 9 1-bedrooms, 27 2-bedrooms, and 2 2-bedrooms with a den.
How many 2-bedrooms? I didn't hear that.
27.
27? So, can anyone do the math faster than me? How many bedrooms are there? That's 54. Plus, well, you're adding another 27 bedrooms or so on top of the 50 units. So it's like probably 77 bedrooms or more or so. How could there be the same amount of bedrooms as there were when there were 63 units? Have you added more 2-bedrooms?
An entire floor was eliminated.
Okay, well, did they eliminate the 2-bedrooms, or? Seems like there's as many 2-bedrooms as there were before. If there's 27 2-bedrooms, that adds 27 bedrooms to the 50 units. That makes it 77 bedrooms at least. And there were 79 with 63 units. Well, at any rate, does it sound accurate that there's around 77 bedrooms?
Potentially, yes, but we'll,
75.
go ahead. Commissioner Braun, you had a last question?
Yeah, soil testing. I couldn't find it on the website. Did they do the soil testing that the court wanted them to do? Or is that being rolled into the settlement discussion where you don't have to do it? And if you did do it, what was the result?
As I understand, it was done to the satisfaction of the town engineer. I'm not sure if we've seen the report, or it's certainly not, I don't think, been provided in the materials, but it's pretty clear, is my understanding with the 2 attorneys nodding, that the soil testing as ordered by the court was done to the satisfaction of our town engineer.
Do we have that in writing from the town engineer or report from the town engineer?
We have a report to the court, I believe. State, right?
That actually, everything, we did stipulate to the court that had been done. There was actually additional testing done, more than what the town engineer had required, but my understanding is he was at the site when the testing was, occurred.
That's been reported to the court and is reflective in that court record.
That's part of the final judgment at this point in time, which was entered by the court in December of
That's right,
last
yeah,
year.
because I forgot it was initial interim judgment and that, yeah.
Exactly. The court waited for those test results to come in as represented by myself and Attorney Baldwin to the court. And then the court entered final judgment. He also confirmed that the plans depicting a minimum of 20 feet width for the driveway and ramp aisle widths within the parking garage were provided to the town, and they were as well. The other last item had made reference to the text amendment applying to the property. Just beach had come down actually it's come down since then. And then the last, I'm just gonna, Mr. Chairman. Yes, and that was the last condition was indeed that the text amendment only applied to this property. But that was the approved text amendment, which is different than the one that's
No,
before the
yes.
commission today.
So just to clarify and confirm, this text amendment will only apply to this property, not any other portion of the Center Design Business District.
That is correct.
Correct.
And how much higher than the neighboring businesses is the height of this? I know it's shorter than it was. So the height now is 56 plus the elevator shaft, basically 60 with that anyway, but, and the other businesses nearby, are they 2 stories, 2.5 stories?
I don't recall
I
two or
honestly
two and a
don't know.
half, but I think the zone allows for 4 stories, 55, 60 feet, maybe
52,
52.
based on the zoning regulation amendments that were made to the Center Design District for the 2179 Post Road project. That permitted 4 stories, 52 feet in height. So this is, just 6 feet, 4 feet off of that limitation to the main roof line, with a slight projection of the elevator shaft above that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Otherwise, I think the plan is to open it up to the public or any public comments, right? So I'm missing anything? John, we'll go through this. All right. Why don't we do that then? Okay. Attorney Smith, thank you for that. As I said, we're gonna be
Chairman,
treating
members
that,
of the commission.
we're gonna be treating this like a public hearing, considering the settlement, it's fairly a little more involved than usual and affects a major part of the town. So does any member of the public in person wish to be heard on this application? Well, call it an application, but the settlement proposal? Come on up, sir.
Come on up. Where do I go?
Right up here.
Okay.
Hot seat. To anybody who's joining us remotely, we would like you to please sign in the chat.
Raise your hand.
First to raise your hand, hit the react button and then raise your hand. Can they sign into the chat?
They can.
And it maybe also meant identify yourself in the chat as well, so we can get a queue going. You can just give your name, address, and keep your comments germane to the application. I'm gonna try and limit it to 3 minutes as we've been doing.
Yeah, Terrence Donahue, 245 Uncle Road.
Good evening.
Good evening. I was just listening to what the gentleman said. I thought I heard him say it was 1 parking space for a commercial space, 1 parking space.
Well, it's not gonna be a back and forth. It's gonna be kind of your time to present, but I heard 1 parking unit, 1 per unit, but I understand that the parking is essentially non-assigned. So between non-assigned parking.
I'm just curious, if you have a commercial establishment, you might think they're gonna have more than 1 person working there. So the people that work in that commercial establishment don't get a parking space. They have to go park on the street. It's a very congested area. I know you've considered that over all these years. I'm just, curious. I think, the density is already been beaten to death. I'm very much against it, but there's nothing we can do about it at this late stage of the game. I've lived in that area for 62 years. I lived on Paper Mill Lane, Oakwood Road, Barlow Place. And once they built the 2 middle schools and a high school and a train station, 10% of the town of Fairfield comes to Uncle Road every school day morning. Think about it. 6,000 people come in that Uncle Road. And when they put this new building over that hill, over the train station, it's gonna be bedlam. It's already bedlam now when school gets out. But this is just gonna add to the problems, that's all.
Thank you. Anything else, please feel free. Anybody else joining us in person?
We have one person who'd like to speak.
Sure.
Please unmute yourself. Kathleen?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Meyer. I live at 167 Churchill Road in Fairfield. I have lived in Fairfield since 1983 and am a proud graduate of Roger Ludlow High School, class of 85. And I just want to share that I feel that this application is the wrong, this is just absolutely wrong for our downtown. I have sat several times on Umpqua Road videotaping emergency vehicles trying to get up Umpqua Road, buses coming off of the Old Post Road past the library, and they barrel up Umpqua Road. And the fact that, I mean, if you've got, say, 4 commercial units on the first level, again, employees work there. There is no parking for this complex. My daughter lives in a 1-bedroom with her boyfriend in Norwalk, and they have to park 3 blocks away and they pay for parking. Is the town going to become a city now? Is this what Mr. Forrest wants us to do? All of this is going to change our downtown incredibly. And this is all for 8 residential affordable units. The town can do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else signed up?
Everyone else, you want to call it?
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure there's nobody in the
No one,
queue.
no one in the chat, no.
Anybody joining us in person or remotely wish to be heard in this application or this proposal? If you're joining remotely, please raise your hand, virtually at least, hit react on the bottom, and then should be a raise your hand function or type in the chat. Is it still *69 to unmute yourself for phone?
*6.
If you're joining us by phone, please press *6.
I don't think that they can.
Yeah, I was just thinking that that's
You're
gonna be.
recognized.
Yeah.
And then if Mr. Chair, if I could, I just wanted to point out to the commission that there was some email correspondence that was received today, and that was placed in a folder for this item under neighbor correspondence.
Thank you, I saw those. Final call for public comments for this proposal. Hearing none, I'll close the public comment portion of this proposal. Only it's rebuttal, but Attorney Smith, I don't think we need to worry about that. Okay. In normal public hearing, we take a session or 2, but this is a settlement that we're firmly, I believe firmly familiar with. So I'll take a motion at this point for whatever the motion is. Commissioner Corsillo.
Move to approve the joint motion for stipulated judgment and proposed order.
Attorney Baldwin, is that a sufficient motion?
I think so.
I think so too, but I just, before I went down the path.
Read the whole thing.
Doesn't that include the text amendments? It's all consumed in the stipulation.
As long as you, I just want to start on the right track, so, okay. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Commissioner Levy seconds, thank you. Commissioner Corsillo?
I think this settlement, if approved by the court, would be a huge improvement over the 830G application, while a decrease in affordable housing, which I don't generally like to see. I think we've had a lot of conversation in the POCD discussion about the importance of maintaining ground floor commercial in our downtown, particularly this core of our center design business district, and having a settlement that restores the ground floor commercial to this site that would have been lost otherwise without the settlement is a huge improvement over the alternative. I think we cannot afford to lose commercial in this part of town. It's important to having the kind of walkable, pedestrian oriented downtown that I think many of us want to see. To me, this is a clear case of a settlement that is, a win for us, and I think we should be approving this.
Thank you. Commissioner Levy?
Yes, I concur with Commissioner Carcello's comments and agree with them. In light of the status of this case, where the Superior Court has already approved the prior application overruling our prior denial, I think that this is a very positive settlement and improvement that serves the best interests.
Thank you. Commissioner Braun?
I cannot go along with this. It's too much out of scale. I read some of the letters from the neighbors, well, from different residents in town, including 2 attorneys that work downtown. And 5 stories is too high. I don't know why the number of bedrooms didn't really go down, considering they took a floor off. It's too many bedrooms, meaning too many cars, too many people. There will be overflow parking, and that will be a huge problem for pedestrian safety and for traffic and overflow parking. Also, we really didn't address the cumulative effect on our fire capabilities. This has been coming up in almost every other hearing, that we might need to go to other towns if there's a fire. I don't think that's adequate, and I don't think we should impose that burden on our fire department. I don't think we have the adequate fire protection here for all these high. This is a high-rise building. This is higher than any of the other buildings we've approved. So I also don't think we should approve something without having the actual engineer report and the test results, because we made the decision. That's our responsibility, not the courts and not just the engineering department. We should have been told what those results were. We should have been able to look at it and discuss it. So I don't know what the test was that was done. Never saw it. Never read an engineering report from our town engineer, who was against this application based on flooding and sightline traffic concerns back when we heard the application. So I don't think we can vote to approve something without having full understanding of the impact this could have on flooding. Because if the system does not adequately protect the town against both quantity and quality of water, you will have pollutants entering into Long Island Sound. Also, people were concerned about the impact on local businesses. I know that the businesses that are there now will all be displaced and new ones will come in, and we will lose those forever. There should have been an analysis on the loss of that business and what they contribute to our town. I also do not believe we should be considering this as being comparable to the zoning regulation change that we made with the 2179 Fairfield Post Road Fairfield Place application, because I don't believe we should have approved that one, because there was no holistic traffic or parking study of the entire center business district that regulation now applies to. We should not have approved that. We did not have adequate information for that. And this just adds on to that by adding more height and more density. Yeah, so I think this will cause pedestrian safety issues. It will cause a huge amount of parking overflow. The number of people that live there will be the same as when there was the extra floor, because the number of bedrooms is basically the same. And we didn't do the flooding. We don't have the flooding information, the soil information. So based on the same reasons we denied this application to begin with, I think we're not ready to approve this type of settlement. We should allow the appeal to continue and go up to the next high level. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Randolph?
I'll be supporting this application. I thank all the participants, and I know it was a number of different parties who worked on this to reach a compromise by reducing a floor. I think that the higher building was a larger scale. I think this building is of the proper scale. So reducing a floor, I thank you very much for that, and adding the commercial space will be, that it will cause a disruption to the existing businesses, but towns change, businesses come and go, businesses or lease spaces. Las Vegas is a great asset to the town, and I hope we can figure out another place they can go. But we do need housing. Housing is in short supply. It's something that anyone who has any change in their family's life, whether it's kids coming home from school, graduating from school, parents downsizing, empty nesters, we don't have enough choices for life changes. The town was built as a monoculture of single-family, medium-sized homes and large homes for families that still predominate the town, but we don't have enough choices, and this building provides an option for the choices we need, and it's in the right place. It's a walkable area. I think the parking will be sufficient. I've personal experience living in a one-for-one TOD for a year for work at a very similar type of location near the train. It was great. It's a great place to live. It was a great experience for me, and I think this will be a great experience for our new neighbors we'll welcome. The questions of engineering, we have an engineering group and right now there's 100% lot coverage here. So any question over a change in lot coverage or a change in flooding, we're going from 100% lot coverage built with no standards. There were no standards for the old system. There was no water control. We're going to an engineered system now, so it will be improved, and I have confidence in our engineering department to assure that that will be built properly. So I thank everyone for reaching a compromise, and we've gotten to a better solution. I do appreciate the lengthy work, and I guess lastly, we get a lot of feedback saying it's too much. We shouldn't do it. The other building we had proposed was a lot more, and it would have been imposed upon us because we don't meet the state requirements for affordable housing. So this is less than what was there before. I know it's changed, but this is a good compromise, and I thank you very much for reaching that compromise.
Commissioner Braun?
I forgot to mention a couple of points. Well, first of all, I want to say we don't have any throwaway businesses. I've heard personally that Las Vitas will not be able to survive another move. And that's sort of an institution in our town. Also, the community theater, that's basically turned into almost like our town logo. It's on the cover of our draft POCD. It's on a number of other things. We might as well remove that because that will simply be marginalized. It'll be towered over by this building. This will change the sort of small downtown look of our entire town. And I think that's a consideration we should make. And again, we haven't lost this case. We don't know if we're going to lose this case. I say we keep fighting the case. We should not be approving it right now. We don't have adequate information, and allowing such a massive increase in height, density, coverage is just too much for our downtown area. Thank you.
Thank you. Part of the settlement proposal here, I believe is in weighing the cost and weighing the benefits and the cost easily tips in the way towards the benefits. As anybody will tell you, any attorney, anybody familiar with litigation, outcomes are uncertain. And to, I think, cavalierly say, let's press on, I think ignores what's at stake. And what's at stake is a much larger building. All the objections that have been noted by the public and by this, at least Commissioner Braun, were rejected by the Superior Court. Partly rejected because we don't have standards for engineering in our regulations. So you ask for information for you to make a determination. It's by what standard are you going to be applying that analysis? That's what the court, I think, rightfully noted in either this or Beach Road. I think it was Beach Road. The Superior Court, was it this one? Yeah, it was in this one. That in order to make decisions, you need to have you have to have a basis in law, regulation, statute, or at least something that's being applied universally. We don't have. We are a commission of a limited body. We can act only within our regulatory authority, which is within our regulations, and we don't have the standards that I think with respect to engineering and even potentially fire. Well, engineering, excuse me, that we were being asked to apply. And the more important point is, court's already denied it at that point. This appeal, when you dive into actually its intricacies and its subtleties, is, I think, very complex. I think the Superior Court made some decisions on its own instead of referring them back to us that caused potentially the appellate court to accept the cert on this. I don't believe in analyzing 830G cases as I've had for the past 10 years as an attorney and as a commission member of this board, and seeing what the Superior Court did, I'm not certain and very uncertain that the reason the cert was granted was because of the merits of our opposition as opposed to the procedure that was done by the Superior Court. And I don't need to get into it now, but I think we risk a great deal if the concern is density and overcrowding and parking to continue onward. Because I think even if we win in the appellate court, we may win a battle, but not necessarily the war, as it will get sent down either to us or to the Superior Court to do something else. And ultimately to clarify whatever procedural, I'll say, potential errors, as I don't know what the appellate court would do, that was potentially done by the Superior Court. And, I think that eventually we'll be getting a building that's either what was applied for at the 830G, or at the very least, what is being offered right here now. As it is substantially in compliance with the regulations that this commission has adopted, whether it was disagreed to by other people of the commission or not. So we can spend time and resources to either get to the initial building however many years down the line and, with the uncertainty of what happens, or we take a compromise now, which I think is substantially similar in conformity to what our zoning existing regulations are. And, one of our major hurdles was that we were potentially settling this under an 830G with less than 30% affordable housing. We don't need to get into that kind of theoretical principle, I think, dispute that we were getting into. This, I think, is a much more practical, sensible solution that we are adopting with our own regulations. We're taking control of the situation. And I believe that we're taking control in a very prudent way. So I would support this application. Commissioner Braun, anything further? You're on mute.
Two quick comments. We should have required 20%. We have a moratorium now, so that this is a settlement, so that really doesn't matter, but we could have required 20% as we did with the other regulation we passed recently, the townwide regulation that allows 12 to 14 units per acre. When we required 20%, I believe, affordable. Wasn't that 20% or was that 15%?
It was 20% as offered by the applicant for Fairfield Place. I think we all, in rethinking that, had thought 15% for the district, the zone wide was more. Prudent. We'll come to that at some point.
Was 20% in the 2179 Post Road one? I thought we did 20% on one of them. Well, at any rate, if we're giving, this amount of density, we should have required 20%. But aside from that, we have at least 1,400 apartment units already approved, not built yet, not occupied yet around town in dozens of buildings that we've approved over the last few years. We probably have another 400 to 500, maybe more in the pipeline right now, some pending before us right now. That's a lot of apartment buildings we haven't seen. We haven't felt the impact. We haven't seen the impact. We need to take this seriously in terms of traffic, congestion, parking, pedestrian safety, and fire safety. And I think we have to look at a more comprehensive cumulative effect of all of this, as well as climate change. The impact on sea level rise is predicted to go up 20 inches in the next 25 years. And flooding. We have sunny day flooding. We have river flooding that comes down. We have flooding that comes up. And I think we need to be looking at that before we start considering adding more high-rise apartment buildings throughout the town. So that's something we need to be considering. Thank you.
I don't think that anybody on this commission is not considering that. Every time we have an application, there's a traffic component. And everybody, I think, is cognizant of sea level rise as well. So don't think that there's anybody on this commission who does not agree that those factors should be considered, and I believe that they are being considered. Anything further, or can we put this to a vote? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. 5 sitting. Any opposed? Commissioner
Aye.
Braun says. All right, so the motion passes 5-1.
Thank you very much.
Attorney Baldwin, Attorney Smith, thank you. Thank you, everybody. All right, next item in old business is 1118 Cross Highway, special exception application of Patterson Club Inc. pertaining to clubhouse renovation, reconfiguration of the golf course layout, and new outdoor buildings in a residential AAA zone. I reviewed the matter, and so I'm up to speed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Emmeline Harrigan, Planning Director for the record. The existing Patterson Golf Club located at 1118 Cross Highway in the residential AAA zone is a 161.8 acre site that seeks to add a terrace addition to the clubhouse, reconfigure the golf course, and add some accessory outbuildings, a quote unquote turn facility and teaching building, while also reconfiguring a portion of the golf cart paths. This is a membership club permitted in the residential zone by special exception. The applicant's experts have indicated that the improvements subject to the TPZ review as part of this request are on a limited area of the 161.8 acre site that has already been improved with existing golf course uses. Inland wetlands review and approval was granted on April 2nd, 2025. Thank you. Wetlands permit 25-0015 for the scope of work requested, and the permit is effective for a period of 5 years. The stormwater management and sewage disposal septic systems were reviewed by engineering and the health department as part of that process and found to be acceptable. The proposed work is within applicable setback, height, and coverage limitations for the property's residential AAA zoning. There are no additional traffic impacts as the use of the property is subject to the restrictions of membership and their guest usage only. There was no public comment received on this application. The relevant standard considerations for a special exception are as follows. Is the location, type, character, and size of the use and buildings in harmony with and conform to the appropriate and orderly development of the town and neighborhood and not hinder or discourage the use of adjacent property or impair its value? Is the nature and location of the use and buildings or structures such that there is adequate access for fire protection? Are the streets serving the proposed use adequate to carry prospective traffic with provision made for entering and leaving the property without creating undue hazard to traffic or congestion? And has adequate provision been made for off-street parking? And finally, is the proposed use in compliance with the Plan of Conservation and Development? And that's all I have.
Commissioner Braun, I think you told me, are you up to speed on this matter?
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. I wasn't able to do that.
No worries. That's why we have alternates, and I understand with everything. I just wanted to make sure of that.
Thank you.
It's just the 5 of us sitting on this. Can I have a motion on the matter? Commissioner Corsello. Move to approve. Is there a second? Commissioner Levy seconds. Thank you, Commissioner Corsello.
The application satisfies the conditions for a special exception. I thought it was a thoughtful design, relatively modest, given the size of the property in question. I think it's going to be an improvement to the existing golf course.
Commissioner Levy?
Yeah, it's basically just minor improvements to the existing course. There's some expansion of the patio area, which would not be visible from the street. It's not going to impact, it's still in harmony, of course, with the existing use. It's not going to impact fire response. No real change as far as impact on surrounding streets, and it's consistent with the existing use in PLCD. So it's all the criteria for the special exception. Yes. Thank you.
Other comments from the commission? Commissioner Randolph?
I appreciate the thoroughness of the applicant's submission. It was thoughtful, it was complete. And it, set a high bar. Set a high bar for other applicants. And I hope other applicants will study this application and, try to replicate the thoroughness and thoughtfulness.
Thank you. Seemed like a pretty straightforward application, at least when I was reviewing it. We can put this to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Passes unanimously. All right, next items, I will let Commissioner Corsillo take the reins as I am recusing myself of 108 Power. That's next three items.
Okay, thank you. I'll call the next three items moving to our public hearings. Zoning regulation amendment, application of attorney Stephen Ellis on behalf of contract purchasers 108 Biro LLC to create a new section 5.3 for a Biro development district. 108 Biro Street zone change application of attorney Stephen Bellis on behalf of contract purchasers 108 Biro LLC to establish a Biro development district on land presently zoned residence C. And 108 Biro Street zoning compliance application of attorney Stephen Bellis on behalf of contract purchasers 108 Biro LLC pertaining to a new 100-unit residential development pursuant to section 830F of the Connecticut General Statutes and a residence C zone. Attorney Bellis.
Good evening. For the record, I'm attorney Stephen Bellis and I represent 108 Biro. I have a few housekeeping matters and then I have my traffic engineer. But a few of the things I wanted to just bring to the commission's attention. I've uploaded some exhibits after we last met. One of them was a revised affordability plan. There was some corrections made in the original document, just kind of updating it. A second document that I've uploaded was the asbestos removal cost and asbestos inspection. One of the commissioners had requested that I produce the pre-demo asbestos inspection and cost for the school, so that's there for you. Another document that I've uploaded is a statute concerning architects, and the statute I uploaded was 20-298. And what that allows is, as long as someone is an employee in an architectural firm, there's an exemption that that person does not have to be licensed in order to give testimony or to represent the company. In this case, John Geddes' company he works for is Geddes Associates, Inc., who does have an architect at the company and who stamped the plans. But he was not the one that presented the design to your commission, but there's nothing wrong with having Mr. Geddes do that. The next document, a couple documents I uploaded were concerning the WPCA. All good news there. The applicant, we had already submitted one report early on that showed that there was adequate capacity. A subsequent report was prepared on June 13th, stating that there was sufficient and adequate capacity. There was a report done by another engineer, Jason Edwards, for 105 Biro at the request of the town. And they asked him to do a more detailed, they call it a hydraulic capacity of the pipe that's in Kings Highway. And they actually found it to be about 48.9% capacity. So that pipe has plenty of availability for the 1 or 2% additional flow that may come from this particular apartment building. We are going back into the WPCA. I forget what date their meeting is, but it's this month. And I expect that there will be an approval of that. The other document I submitted had to do with Mr. Steve answering questions that the commission had in response to what I call fire concerns with the building. And those were all put in writing on June 23rd, 2025. Mr. Versteeg was here last time, but we had a technical glitch, and he might be available if the commission has any questions remotely. And then the last document I put up was a realtor report, basically to talk about some of the property values in Fairfield when other projects such as this one are built. So with those documents uploaded, those were the documents that I wanted to say as housekeeping matters. Any questions, of course, I'll take it. I'm not trying to avoid it, but I was going to have Mr. Kermit Hewa speak on the traffic. It's up to you. It's up to the commission.
Commissioner Braun?
Just regarding the fire, and I apologize if I'm repeating anything that was said. I was away for a moment. I drove by, and the road that goes across the top of Finn Street is extremely narrow. And that was one of the concerns of the fire marshal about having adequate access, I guess, because that's the main entrance. They'll be breaking through because the roads don't connect now. So the top of Halley and the top of Biro will be or this building will connect to Finn Street. So was that addressed in the updated report that you submitted? The
Yes.
concern?
Yeah. So just so you were clear, the building that's going to be constructed on this site is very similar to the building that's currently on the site. So there's no difference in the road configurations, right? Whatever's there now is going to be the same. To answer your question, yes, he did address it, and his report is dated June 23rd.
But how could it be the same if right now nothing connects? The school ends at the top of Biro. Then there's some woods, and then there's houses and condos along Finn Street. So how can that not be? That's different than the way it is now, right?
No, the road configurations are not changing. That's what I'm saying.
But the main entrance will be on Finn Street, right?
That is correct.
And will that be the entrance to the underground parking garage portion? Because there are other entrances as well on Biro, I think, right?
There are two entrances, is my understanding, for the into the building, not just one. And I think they're depicted on the plans that we've submitted. So those were addressed in the letter.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I think we're good.
Okay. And then I would like to introduce to you Kermit Hewa. He's a traffic engineer who's been doing this for a long time and has reported on traffic studies in many different
Can you
towns.
speak up, please?
I'm sorry?
We can't hear you back here.
Oh, you would like me to speak up? I'll try.
Not you, the traffic guy, but you can speak up too.
Yeah. I'll tell him to keep his voice up.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hang on, we're gonna get you the microphone.
Hello?
See a green light.
Hello?
I don't think it sounds like it. Oh, no.
Battery. Charge.
Speakers here.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
We'll just make Kermit yell.
Speak in your best loud voice.
Okay, good evening.
Just a quick reminder to folks in the back. I can't hear you, but the microphones overhead, you see the green lights are very sensitive. So even if we can't hear you, it does get picked up on the video and the transcript.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Chair. For the record, my name is Kermit Hua. I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. I have over 28 years of experience in traffic engineering. I prepared a traffic study for 108 Byro. And we are looking at 100 units, a mid-rise apartment. One thing when I was preparing this, I noted table 3 on page 6 need to make some correction. Just a note, as far, the first line should be weekday morning, the second line should be weekday afternoon, as opposed to weekday afternoon and Saturday midday. That's the correction on table 3. The reason I mentioned that is just a trip generation for this 100 unit site. We are looking at the weekday morning trips that will be generated by this 100 units, 37 trips, and weekday afternoon is 39 trips. This question is often raised during hearings. How come you have 100 units and only 37, 39 trips during the peak hours? The reason is not all tenants leave during the same peak hour. When we say peak hour, we're looking at the peak hours of the adjacent streets, Byro, Haley, Castle, Kings Highway East, Black Rock Turnpike, and so forth. We did collect traffic counts in December 2024 and pick out the peak hours for the weekday morning and weekday afternoon on a weekday. Because that was the winter and we seasonally adjusted those volumes to the peak summer month of 2024. The factor we use is 1.088. That factor was based on Connecticut DOT data. They have a data of the variations of monthly changes in monthly volumes, in urban areas in Connecticut. So that's the factor I use to adjust the December 2024 volume to the peak summer month volume. By the way, the peak hours based on our data were 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 4:15 p.m. to 5:15 p.m. Then we plug those data into a traffic software called Synchro and ran those essentially the traffic operating condition to evaluate the traffic operating condition during the busiest 2 hours on a typical weekday. And even with these 100 units, the trips from these 100 units, even with these busiest hours of a typical weekday, we also considered a annual growth rate, assuming even we are not doing this project, there's some background traffic growth rate. This is also based on information we obtained from the Connecticut DOT. They recommend a 0.5% per year, just general traffic growth assumption for the town of Fairfield. We applied that on 2024 volume to generate 2027 background volume, assuming the units will be built and occupied in 2027. So compare all these factors, assuming these background factors, background traffic volume, and the 100 units, the traffic impact of 100 units. The future 2027 volume level of service at the intersection we analyzed. By the way, we analyzed 8 intersections on area roadways and also 3 intersections at the 3 driveway locations on Byro, on Haley, and on Finch. All those 11 intersections, all traffic were operating at the level of service D or better. By the way, these are all unsignalized intersection. So unsignalized intersection, D means average delay of 35 seconds or less per vehicle. Actually, there was only one D. Most of the intersections will be A and B, some Cs. So overwhelmingly positive. I drove on these roads several times. My overall impressions, there's very little traffic, very low traffic. These are predominantly residential streets. I'm talking about Byro, I'm talking about Haley, even Castle Avenue, very little traffic on a typical day, even during peak hours. So in other words, there's more than adequate existing roadway capacity to accommodate these limited number of trips. Again, 37 for weekday morning peak hour and 39 trips for weekday afternoon peak hour. And we also collected speed data on Finch Street, on Byro Street, and on Haley Avenue. The reason we did that is to get a sense what are the side distance requirements for these three streets at the driveway intersections because the requirements are correlated with the prevailing speed of these three streets. So I believe the civil engineer has submitted a separate plan on the sidelines at three driveway locations. And he has demonstrated that we will provide adequate side distances at all three driveway locations. So I just provide you a quick summary. Overall, level of service D or better under the future build condition, no sideline issues, very few existing traffic on the adjacent roadways. In conclusion, it is my professional opinion as a traffic engineer. These limited number of trips generated by these 100 units will be adequately and safely accommodated by the existing streets in the area. That's all I have.
Mr. Hu, the corrections that you mentioned when you first started talking, those are not reflected in.
I can certainly, follow up with the
Yeah, if you
updated
could-
version.
if you could
I will
submit
do
those
that.
for the
Yeah.
record, please. Thank you. Commissioner Braun.
What was the date? I can't find the date that you did the traffic counts in your report. Is it mentioned in the report at all? The date in December of 2024?
It did not mention, it just say December 25th. I can look up my file on my file folder to give
It
you.
really should be in the report.
I don't think there's any zoning regulation requirement as far as the mentioning the exact date of the traffic counts. Is
I
that-
assume it's not Christmas Eve or anything like that, but
Oh, it is December 4th. You
Okay.
can check the day of the week. Any other
And-
questions? Go ahead.
yeah, you have two charts, one on page 7. And you have, when you talk about the service level,
Yes.
one chart is on page, it'd be good if you had the charts side by side. Table 2 is capacity analysis of no bid with the service level of all those intersections. Then if you go down 2 pages or 3 pages down to table 5, which shows build conditions, they really should be put side by side. I cannot tell if any conditions are being made worse. Can you explain if any service levels of any of those intersections are worse? I can only do it if I cut and paste and put these charts side by side.
I think one thing at a driveway intersection, if you look at the weekday morning peak hour, at the intersection of Fink Street and Black Rock, we drop from an existing B for the morning peak hour to a C under the build condition. That's when, because Black Rock is, has a little bit more traffic. But overall, I don't think from B to C is a big change.
Well, that was actually my concern because I actually drove out of Finn Street and it took me a really long time to go anywhere. I could not make a left at all. Now, did you consider, when you did this, was the Castle Avenue 8-30G building fully occupied? I guess it was by December of 24. And there's also a new one going up halfway up Castle Avenue. What does 5% growth a year accommodate? How many units? Because there's units being built all over the place.
Let me answer that question, Commissioner Brown. On Friday, December 13th, I emailed the then planning director, Mr. Wendt, asking him to provide an information of existing or approved residential development in the area so I can include those information in the background traffic of my traffic study. I never heard back from Mr. Wendt. Of course, he may be busy, but I made the effort, reach out to the town staff to gain that information. After I finished the traffic report, I drove by the area. I did notice the new development at the Castle Avenue and Black Rock Turnpike you mentioned. So this is one part of my answer. The second part is the 0.5% annual traffic growth. I assume that will account for most of the additional impact that's going to be generated on these adjacent streets.
So would it be possible to get an accurate figure now from some source of the actual growth that can be expected based on what we've approved? And honestly, we've approved so many things, and we have a spreadsheet that we're working on informally. There's a lot of units out there that are not built yet in this general area, and a lot of people go down these side roads to get from like Punxsutawney Hill to Black Rock Turnpike to go west.
Commissioner Brown, let me respond to that. If the town provides this information, I'll be more than happy to update our traffic study. That's one part. The second part, as someone have been doing this for over 28 years, I can assure you, it will not make much change in terms of level of service. If you want us to go through that exercise, I'll be more than happy to do it.
Okay, so I have a question. So you have three driveways basically in and out of this development. The main entrance is on Finn Street, which of course is not connected now to the school, right? And that you enter Finn Street, you can go into the parking garage, I'm assuming, and then you also have entry and exit from Biro and Hallie.
Right, actually, that's a good thing. Currently, if you look at the older school, I don't know how they operate. That was probably decades ago at St. Emery School. If you have only one entrance on Barrow Street as opposed to three entrance, distribute your traffic down to 3 streets. I think we are making improvement, assuming we are producing the same amount of traffic as the previous school, which is not the case, by the way, Commissioner Brown.
Which is
Before-
not, which is not what?
Which is not the case. We generate far fewer traffic than the previous, than the school, assuming, say, the scenario where some Emory School restart their operation or someone else coming back with a new parochial school. I actually did that exercise today when I was preparing for this hearing. I was just using the existing volume, existing area of the school building, 22,435 square feet, which is from the assessor's website. I looked at the IT trip generation. Their trip generation is based on number of students. So I looked up the Connecticut State School Construction. They have a criteria like how many square feet for per student. The most conservative, that is the fewest number of students it can accommodate in this 22,435 square feet building is 149 students, primary school students. And based on the 149 students, my trip generation using IT data, it tells me during the morning peak hour, they will generate 150 trips versus our 37 trips. During the afternoon peak hour, obviously the school will let out earlier, 2 or 3 o'clock. They will generate 89 trips versus 39 trips of our residential developments. So
I mean, okay, I hear you, but do you know what the actual enrollment was and whether they use buses? And when was the last time the school was actually used?
I assume that was decades ago. People probably have a different travel habits. I don't know whether walk to the school or have buses or people drive to the school. That it seems like I couldn't find any information on the website, on the internet.
And then the convent across the road probably had little, did you factor that in as well? 'Cause that's basically across the road.
That was a difficult project, will be presented by different developer. I happen to prepare a traffic study for that developer as well. So that was not considered in the, if there's any traffic associated with the convent, that obviously will be captured during our traffic counts.
Okay, I have a question about accidents. I see in table 7, accident record summary. It looks like it only goes through 2023, 21 to 23. Were you unable to get information more updated, like through 2024? I mean, right now, we're halfway through 2025. I know, yeah.
I try to present, in the full year accidents, because say we are at the, July 2025. If I go look up June 2027 data, they are probably there. But my concern is they probably haven't been submitted and processed in a timely fashion or will end up missing someone. So this report was prepared in December 2024. So that is the reason I use the previous 3-year data. If you want me to include the data, 2024 data in the updated report, I can certainly do that.
I don't understand what you just said. You said you did not include 24 even though you had it? I don't understand what.
We can have it at this time. The report was prepared in 2024. So I used the previous 3-year data, 1, 2, 3, as opposed to use the 2024, because my concern is not all the information have been updated in a timely manner. So I don't want to present a maybe incomplete.
Because I would say this, that Castle Avenue project, even in 2023, from 21 to 23, it generated 13 accidents. That's a lot of accidents, as well as accidents at Finn and Black Rock Turnpike and Poe and Black Rock Turnpike. So yeah, and I'm sure the town police department has records that go right up to present day. Thank you.
Yeah,
Commissioner Grant, Commissioner.
thank you very much. Yeah, Mr. Randall.
Mr. Watt?
Yeah.
So you've said a number of times you've got extensive experience as a traffic engineer.
Yes.
And your report is very clear. I appreciate it. So does that experience include, I know there's different trades, if you will, or different skill sets. Does that, are you a designer also?
You mean like design, paying, actual plans?
Do you have experience understanding and reviewing designs of roadways?
I'm not a roadway designer, but I do prepare traffic signal plans. For example, the bunch of signals at the roundabout, including the one at the roundabout, the traffic circle and Black Rock Turnpike. I designed that traffic study as part of the improvements for the train station. That was probably 10, 15 years ago.
And so you're familiar with radiuses, turns, curb cuts?
Right,
those
right.
Concepts?
Right, yes.
Are you an expert in those areas?
No, I'm not an expert. I'm not a roadway designer.
Are you proficient in that area?
I have a basic knowledge, yes.
So if we could go to, I guess it's SL-1 in the architectural plan supplement. .108 Biro Architectural Plan Supplement .pdf. Page 5 of 5. Supplement. It was.
He only had.
I think I know.
He submitted it this week.
Is it up on the screen?
All right, John. Yeah, that's the file right there.
Want to share you want to actually stop this?
I guess let me switch to a different question. I'll come back to this one. So, your report's it's very clear, as I said. Could you just walk us through, one question, you said that you spoke to Mr. Wendt and asked him if there were other projects going in the area?
I emailed him on December 13th, 2024. I never heard back.
So you emailed him once or?
Emailed him once, yes.
Okay, so, Mr. Wendt retired, right?
My understanding is at that time, he was still the director, if I'm correct.
So, as my understanding is that in order to create traffic volumes, you need to look at the growth in the background capacity, growth by your specific project and the growth of other projects, correct? And so you contacted Mr. Wendt once. Are you reasonably confident that you captured the other projects that are proposed in the area?
No, I did not capture. That's the reason, I said I contacted him and never received those information.
So you don't have so your traffic volume lacks that information? Your traffic volume study?
Well, let me repeat what I told Commissioner Brown. The two parts. One is I never received this information. That's the reason this information is lacking, is missing from the future bill traffic volume. Second part is I already assumed the 0.5% per year as recommended by the DOT staff. So it's my belief that 0.5% per year, most likely more than adequate to account for these other developments, because these are residential streets. Even you say there's a development a mile, half mile from now, do they really have to go through Castle Avenue? Do they have to use Biro Street or Haley Avenue or Fifth Street, I don't believe so, unlikely. I think most people use those streets of, local residents. The one we see in the field is at the Castle and Black Rock. Some of them will use Castle, but I assume 0.5% per year, 1.5% over 3 years, more than adequate account for those volumes.
And so there's another project you mentioned proposed on Biro as well.
Yes, that came after this. I prepared this. I was asked to prepare that.
So your report may or may not have other projects in the area. You called Mr. Went once. Would it be reasonable for us to request that you confirm that your assumption of 0.5 is,
If the town staff provide additional information, I told Ms. Brown, I would more than happy to update it.
so.
I found SL1 for you if you need to.
Yeah, I've got it here. So as long as you're looking at it, and then I guess I'll stick to your report. So, what's the best? I think there's a couple of different descriptions of how the traffic goes in and out of this building. You've got one, it's a table. Let's see, that's, table, I think it's table 4, yes. So could you just describe your assumption of how this building will be used? Because it is a rather unusual set of access points. So could you just basically describe your assumption that 40% of the traffic is going to be coming on Finn Street? How did you come up with that assumption?
Right, I'm just looking at the likely destination or origin of those people, whether there's points north on Black Rock or points east on Route 1, or are they going to the highway ramps? And those are the basis of my assumption. The second part, actually, I also looked at the existing turning, how vehicle like turn left, go through, turn left. And that's the two source of my basis for these percentage to assign those volumes on area roadway. If you, by the way, go to the appendices, page A5, I did provide the volumes actually assigned to these intersections, these 11 intersections. Because, like I said, these are not big numbers, 37, 39. When you decide, apply a 5%, 10%, almost, amount to like 1 or 2 vehicles. Like
I'm just trying to understand how you evaluate it, because I'm trained as an architect, so I think about the building, but the building has 2 garages, right?
Had three garage entrances on 3 streets.
There's 2 levels of the garage, right?
That is correct.
So the upper level garage is 80 spaces, and that's on A2 and that same.
Yes.
That is correct.
Yes.
And then so and then the lower level has 83. So wouldn't that mean that just simple math, 50% of all the access would be coming from Finn Street, not 40? I'm just trying to understand your report.
You see, the pole court, as you know, pole court is an extension of Finn Street, right? They make a 90-degree turn.
Well, I'm just,
I understand.
You're the engineer.
I'm trying to explain it to you.
Well, I don't know if I've stated my question. So Finn Street, you're saying 40%, but it's more like 50% of the cars we park there. And where do you think that, where are the truck deliveries going to be coming from and any drop-offs? What entrance is it? Isn't that going to be Finn Street likely?
Again, the Finn Street, if you keep going Finn Street, it comes to a 90-degree turn. That the extension of that is pole court. That is the reason I'm assigning 10% to the pole court. That's on the first row of the table. So 10% plus 40% is 50%. That's exactly the number you're looking for.
Okay. And then where do you think that let's say the ancillary vehicles like the deliveries, Ubers, where are they going to be coming in?
You can use all 3 entrances. There's nothing stopping.
They can, but you know, I'm an architect and I would say they'd be coming in on Finn Street because that's the front door, right?
Well, not necessarily. It depends on, so there are many factors. For example, one factor is what's the future street address of this thing? How the GPS routing those, not everybody is familiar with these.
Yeah,
Not all visitors familiar with these, right? It depends on how GPS route those trucks, route those Amazon trucks. So I assume, they can use all three entrances.
Yeah, I know you said you weren't a designer and I'm an architect, so I know turning radiuses, but how are you gonna get a truck in off of the other two side streets? And I think the shows, it kind of shows in SL1. You get Biro, and then you've got Haley. And in SL1, it doesn't seem like you've got the correct percentages in your analysis because the front door is at Finn Street.
So you're saying all those trucks will go
I'm
to?
not saying anything. I'm asking you.
I'm saying they are using all three.
So you think Uber delivery truck, an address is gonna come in the back door of the garage on Biro and Haley?
There's no reason they will not.
So going back to SL1. Looking at that right now?
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
How would you characterize Biro and Haley? If I call those a dead end, would that?
That's correct. I agree. Those are dead ends.
So Biro's a dead end and Haley's a dead end.
That is correct.
Okay. And do you see a turning radius there?
For what?
A vehicle,
For passenger vehicles or trucks?
anything?
Well, there are residents on these streets, however they use those turning radius, it will be the same thing,
So if you're a compact car,
Right.
no, but you said the Amazon trucks could come in on
Right.
Biro, right? So if I'm an Amazon truck, so I don't know, what, 16 feet?
I don't know. Probably more than
You're an
that.
expert.
Probably more than that. I think passenger car is more like 16.
18 feet. I'm just talking about the utility
I
van.
understand.
So utility van, what's the turning radius for an 18-foot vehicle?
I don't know. I don't have that off the top of my head.
It's the width of that street is what? It looks like it's 36. Is it wider than 36 feet?
I think last time someone mentioned 28, but it's definitely over 24, which is typical for residential streets. So, I would say the width of Haley and Biro are adequate.
But you can you could turn a truck around.
You don't need to make a U-turn. You can just use a
Back out.
driveway to make to get head in and, make a T-turn.
You could look at, if you look at SL1, how's that? Could you explain to me how that happens?
Well, at least one option is they can pull into the driveway, the driveway, make a T-turn, like I said. You don't need to make a streets as wide as, to accommodate the U-turns for these large Amazon trucks. And if that's the case,
They're, 18-foot panel trucks, right?
Right,
And
right.
so what's the height of that door going into the garage? Can you?
I'm not an architect. I cannot answer you.
So that's a garage, so it's not, that's your, that's the engineer's area, so, do we know what the floor to floor is there? I mean, so you're saying you gotta pull a truck in from Biro and do a T-turn into the garage to turn it
No,
around?
I'm saying they can just park on the streets if they want. If it's high enough for them to enter the garage, they can enter the
And then
garage.
they back out?
Again, I'm not a Amazon driver. I cannot,
But you're a
predict how they will act.
You're a traffic engineer and you understand turning radiuses, correct?
Actually, I understand turning radius, but the downside of overemphasizing turning radius is the consequences making the streets too wide. A wide street is never good for residential streets, and these are residential streets.
Okay, I think those were all my questions.
Thank you so much.
Questions? Any other questions for Mr. Hua? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ellis, who's up next? Oh,
Can I have a question?
please. Go ahead.
Yeah, could you explain where traffic is primarily going to be coming in and out of in your expectation? Which of the, there's three entrance points you said, one on Byro, one on Halley, one on Finn.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. They'll use all three entrances. As far as their final destination, obviously, a large portion of them will try to use I-95, assuming they're using as a commuter route. And the other one is Route 1, and the other one is Black Rock Turnpike. That's the main travel routes for typical commuters.
And the 83, the 80 space upper garage is only accessible from Finn Street?
Said upper.
Upper, hope the architect is here.
Yeah, it looks that way to me. I think she's correct.
So basically half the vehicles will be coming out on Finn, and the only way you get anywhere from Finn is by going out to Black Rock Turnpike on Finn or going up Poe, which is an extension of Finn, which also goes to Black Rock Turnpike, right?
Absolutely, you're correct.
And they're all gonna be making a left probably on Black Rock Turnpike, I imagine, to get to the highway. But if you can't get out on Black Rock Turnpike, there's no way to get off the upper parking garage and go anywhere other than Finn Street, right? You can't get to Halley or Byro from the upper parking garage, right?
Commissioner Brown, two parts. One is, I think you're right, they have to use Fifth Street or Polk Court. The second is, I disagree with the notion that there will be difficult to turn out of Finn onto Black Rock, because the traffic analysis shows there's no such thing. Actually, let me just look at the level of service.
Well, Finn was one that was going down from a B to a C, wasn't it?
Finn was, yeah, that's during the morning peak hour, westbound from Finn. That's, I
That
agree.
goes- That's going left?
Westbound Finn at the T intersection, if you look at the, imagine T intersection, Black Rock going north and south.
Wait. Westbound? You're talking about the turn from Finn to Black Rock Turnpike went from a B to a C service level, right?
That is correct.
And that's a left onto Black Rock Turnpike.
That is correct.
Because I was there, I took a left, I saw a mailman there and he had trouble. We all had trouble trying to get out. I couldn't get out taking a left. And now that's just a short distance above Castle Avenue, and Poe is right above that. So, but is it true then that there is no way of getting out on Finn Street? There's the upper parking garage, which is 80 spaces, can only be accessed on Finn, right?
Finn and Polk Court, the two intersections.
That's part of Finn, basically. Okay. And it's just the same road. And then the 3 space lower parking garage, that's accessible. Is that accessible from both Halley and Byro Street?
That is correct.
And you could drive right through to egress and ingress on both entrances?
That's correct. There's no turn restrictions there.
And where are the mail rooms and the package rooms? Are they in each parking garage, and where are they located?
I'm just looking at the plan A-1. The mail room is on the lower, is on the level of parking garage for the Byro Street and Haley Avenue entrances, you know.
So
Yeah,
are delivery people, is deliveries, Ubers, all that, how would they even know where to go if you have a separate mail room and package room on each parking garage, but they're only accessible from different roads? I mean, each of those roads is filled with houses and kind of narrow. People park on the roads, especially Finn. That seemed narrower than the other roads, but you cannot predict where Uber and Amazon and will go in. They can go in any of those entrances and just try to find the mailroom and the.
I don't think the mail room is a concern of Uber drivers. That's only for the post office. And if they.
And Amazon.
And.
And Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon probably use the mail room.
So I'm looking at a mailroom right here. This is the lower level. And where's the entrance from Halley and the entrance from Byro?
They are pretty much opposite each other, you know, in the southern portion of the building, closer to the southern, you know. If you look
Okay.
at a plan A-1,
Hmm.
that shows you the two entrances.
And the EV you said was all outdoors, I think, or near the EV charging stations, or you told us that last time. Are they near the entrances?
I don't have the answer to, I'm
Okay,
not.
that's not, that was the other, yeah, okay.
Commissioner Randolph.
And
This-
moving out, where does that take place? Moving, that would be outside, I guess, people moving in and out? Is there a space park for a moving van?
Ms. Bra, we don't have a designated sort of a parking area for moving trucks. I think if you're referring to those, however, the area residents are using the streets. If we have better options, I don't think we're gonna use all three streets.
And there's 100 units. How many bedrooms are there?
I don't have the answer for you.
Commissioner Brun, we could.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how much overflow parking there will be on the streets. Do you
I think
expect overflow parking on the streets?
No, I think that we've built a building that has 2 levels of parking with a total of about 163 spaces for 100 units. So I think that in this particular case, there was a recognition to try to keep these people in the building.
Okay, do you know how many 2-bedroom units there are?
70.
I think I added wrong. Was it 88?
83, 171.
Approximately.
171 bedrooms?
No.
Parking spaces.
I think that there are 54 1-bedrooms and 46 2-bedrooms.
So there'll be another.
And there would be
perhaps
164
yeah.
spaces. I did
Okay.
that.
So I would expect probably at least 150 people to live there. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Randolph. Yeah, one last question, and again, your traffic engineering is traffic and engineering in your title, so I'll ask this question, which is a little bit out, but a 10% slope road, you're familiar with 10%, with that, you can visualize that, right?
Yes.
And in your mind, is that flat, steep, very steep?
It depends on what the town zoning regulation says, what.
No, I'm talking intuitively.
Okay, it's a relatively steep roadway, yes.
Steep road, so you probably have to downshift your car, or it would be uncomfortable to walk up that road, right?
I only drive automatic, I don't know what you're talking about.
But your car, well, your automatic downshifts, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand. Yeah, so your car would likely downshift, and it would be uncomfortable to walk on something. I'm a cyclist, and I know riding up.
I understand cyclists and pedestrians, if it's over 10%, that will be challenging. Actually, we did, count the number of cyclists and pedestrians, and even during peak hour, you're talking about one, 2, or 3. It's auto.
I was just really asking about your intuition on 10%, but 10% is very steep, correct?
Steep, it depends on the locations, municipalities, some allow it, some may feel like,
But this is a feeling, like if you're.
Yeah, I understand your point.
Icy road.
I agree, it's pretty
on an
steep road.
icy- An icy road, 10% would be dangerous, right?
I wouldn't say dangerous.
Icy, untreated road.
I think, the Public Works Department of Fairfield will take care of it if that becomes an
This is
issue.
a garage, though. The ramp is 10% of this garage.
If you talk about the slope of the garage, that's not unique to this garage.
No, it's not
That's
unique.
all, that's happens to every garage.
Not every garage.
Well, I mean, if you want to go.
Every garage, but I'm just.
If there's a elevation change, you have to some kind of slope. You're talking about two things. One is the slope of road, one is the slope of ramp of garages. There are two different things. And people, drivers treat those two things differently.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wu.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Nadelis, do you have any other?
I had some closing remarks before I think that's it for me.
Okay.
So. Thank you. It's gonna be on here for the next ones. You can stick around. I won't be too long. I think that in the long term, take a long-term view of the project, I think that approving 108 Byros application really makes sense. Why do I say that? The town currently has a vacant building that's deteriorating, has asbestos contamination, and it pays no property taxes because it's part of a church. And it right now serves no purpose. The owner of the building needs the money from the sale and cannot afford to remediate or repair the building. Now, the applicant is willing to demolish the building and place the property back on the tax rolls with about $300,000 to $400,000 yearly income to the town of Fairfield. The town also gets at least 100 new residents and who are what we call economic drivers. They go to restaurants, they go to bars, they get haircuts, they shop, they need lawyers, they need doctors, they need accountants. Consumer spending makes up 2/3 of GDP, so these people are economic drivers. The residents at 108 Biro are not likely to have school-age children. They're only 1 and 2 bedroom units, so they will not be a burden on the town budget. There's a realtor report that I've uploaded that these new apartment buildings generate activity in the neighborhoods and actually increase the value of neighborhood properties values here in Fairfield. Apartment buildings are not big traffic producers. People come and go at different times of the day. And for this apartment, there are 3 entrances with 2 garages that keep the cars on site. There probably was more, as Kermit had said, there was probably more intense traffic when it was a school. Obviously, when the school started and ended at very specific times of the day. Now, I understand that the zoning commission and the immediate neighbors are used to abiding by the local zoning regulation. And I also know that you are well aware that towns don't have any inherent powers and must yield to state law, especially for something such as State Statute 8-30G. I think in this particular case, and you know how to apply those standards because you've done it several times, that there are not any substantial evidence of health or safety issues. There certainly was a concern about fire safety, and that was clearly brought up, and I heard you loud and clear. But the case law is clear that concerns or theoretical possibilities of fire safety is not enough to deny an 830G application. We've all heard the Umpqua case before mine, and that case, the judge set the standard, which has been around for a long time, that you need a quantifiable probability that a specific harm will result if the application is granted. We haven't heard any of that in this particular application. I would refer you all to Mr. Versteeg's report and his reply to all the questions that the commission had on fire safety. There was substantial evidence that the commission must follow was that the building was designed and stamped by an architect. The fact that Mr. Geddes presented testimony from his firm is absolutely permissible under Connecticut General 20-298. And whether you like him or not is not relevant. The architectural drawings were stamped by an architect in the firm, and the building presented meets the applicable fire codes. Mr. Versteeg clearly articulated which standards apply and which are guidelines that are not the law but merely suggestions. I also gave you the case of a state of Makowski, which states that guidelines do not rise to the level of the law. They are simply that, suggestions. The fire marshal reviewed this application at a code review and did not provide any evidence that there are safety issues. The school had sewer and water, and the apartment has adequate water and supply and sewer capacity. I've given you the last report from our engineer, Brian Nesteriak, where he actually had the sewer pipes surveyed, and his calculations were in his June 3rd report. And then there was the more recent hydraulic analysis that states that the 30-inch sewer pipe is only about at 50% capacity, that the 1% additional flow from this apartment building is negligible, in his words. So the standard the commission must follow has been clearly set out by our courts, and I know you're all familiar with it, so I'm not going to bore you to death with it. But the risk of harm to the public interest must be specific and probably occur, and clearly outweigh the need for affordable housing. There's no question that we have a housing crisis in Connecticut, and that Fairfield's affordable stock, according to the state, is around 3%. I'm suggesting to you that with a 4-year moratorium upcoming, it is unlikely to significantly increase that percentage over the next 4 years. I do believe that the need for affordable housing in Fairfield outweighs any general concerns over design and construction of the building. If there are any specific safety or health issues that this commission can articulate, then I think they should impose a reasonable change to correct the issue. And I'd be glad to work with all of you to do that if you have a specific concern. Otherwise, I do believe that this application does meet the criteria and standards for allowing an affordable housing application at this particular site. So that's my pitch to you all.
Thank you, Attorney Bellis.
You're welcome.
I will include the applicant's initial presentation there so we can get to public comment.
Correct.
Start with folks in the room. Attorney Green, are you presenting?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Joel Green. As I understand it, I will be presenting next Tuesday evening.
This is on 108 Byro, Joe.
I'm sorry.
You caught him off
I will
guard.
not be presenting.
You got me on the next one.
All right, we are going to, one moment, we're going to start with folks in the room. If you are joining remotely and wish to be heard in this item, please sign into chat, in the chat, and or raise your hand, so we can get you queued up, and we'll get to folks who are joining remote after those who are in the room. If you are in the room and wish to be heard, please come up. It's first come, first serve. Yes.
Well, I wrote a letter 3 weeks ago asking if I could have more time than the original 3 minutes. Because I live in the neighborhood. I'm speaking on behalf of the neighbors. So I just want to put across my points of what we discussed as neighbors.
Yeah, you did. Do you have remind me, do you have a presentation that needs to be put up?
No, I'm just gonna.
Okay, so
I just
Attorney
have
Bellis.
points that I'd like to discuss.
I'll yield my seat.
Yeah, please do. So just come up, say your name and your address. Anyone else who wishes to be heard, please just, if you want to form a little queue behind them.
My name is Tom Davis. I live at 50 Finn Street. I've lived there for the last 42 years with my wife Celeste. I lived at Sawyer Road, which was less than a mile away, for 25 years. I lived at Kenwood Avenue for 2 years, and now at Finn Street for 42 years. I've lived in that area for 70 years. Okay, so that's my previous letters. I wrote 2 letters. I've been in the construction field for 40 plus years. Okay, and I've listened to what's been going on. This isn't even out of my notes. I've listened to what's going on. People can't answer a simple question. How wide is the road? And I spoke to Mr. Randolph 3 weeks ago. Byro and Haley are 28 feet wide. Finn Street is 24 feet wide. This was discussed 3 weeks ago, and we're still asking those questions. And I'll get back to you. Know what you're discussing. I'm ranting a little bit because I'm a little bit upset because for 3 weeks I've sat here and I've listened to the same comments. And Mr. Randolph 2 or 3 weeks ago was spot on everything that he said, and he couldn't get any answers. So I'm going to try to tell you about this neighborhood because, again, Nobody knows where Finn Street is. Nobody knows where Pole Court is. Nobody knows where Biro Street is. Nobody knows where Haley Street is. You're putting, here's a plot plan, put a building on there for me. Where's Biro Street? I don't know. Where's Haley Street? I don't know. I don't want to get upset and get fired up, but I keep hearing this week in and week out. So when I get excited, I get loud too. So if I get too loud, just give me a little thing. As I said, I've lived in the same area. Help me, okay. I lived in the same area for 70 years. I saw Coons Corner turn into Blockbuster, and and now it's Chip's Family Restaurant. I've seen Pete's Market, which is on the corner of Naps Highway and Black Rock Turnpike, gone. I've seen Scott's Variety, Spala's Barbershop, Button Ball Tavern, which is now CVS. I've seen Brown Brothers Furniture, which is now Walgreens. And I've seen on Kings Highway, Lloyd's Lumber, which is now Goodwill and Town Fair Tire. I doubt there's any people in this room that remember that.
Yes, there is.
Okay, there's a couple of us old timers. Okay, so I've been in the area. I know what's going on. Okay. Again, I'm speaking on behalf of the neighborhood, Finn Street, Pole Court, Haley, Biro, Castle, and even people on Warren. Because everybody has reached out because this affects all of us. The project has always been referred to as Kings Highway, Common, and 108 Biro. Well, the front entrance is Finn Street. The mailing address, I would assume, is going to be Finn Street. So why is everybody kind of like pushing away from Finn Street? Because there's 6 houses there and 13 cars? And you're gonna add 80 more cars to that street and that has no impact? The traffic study, there's 77 pages. It's magnificent. It's 77 pages. 59 pages is all statistics and surveys from not even cities. It's not from Connecticut. It's from Washington, D.C., California. You know, the site, there was a plan, SL01. It's a site plan coming out of the driveways. Who cares about the site plans coming out of the driveways? How about the site plan coming out of Finn Street? Miss Braun, she went there and she tried to take a left out of Finn Street. You've got to go halfway into the northbound side to take a left to go southbound. There's nothing on that. There's nothing on that sight line. There's no sight lines for that area. You have to go, we all live on Finn, all my Finn Street neighbors are right here. Nobody goes out Finn Street. Everybody goes out Pole Court. And the part of Pole Court, you have to do the same thing because there's a 30-inch oak tree right on the corner. So you either have to pull back or you have to go forward. Again, now you're in Black Rock Turnpike. It's not an easy site to get out of. Experience, 42 years. 2 kids, my wife. I mean, like I said, the neighbors are all here. The study was done at between 8 and 9 a.m. and 4:15 and 5:15. If you live in the area, the traffic starts at 7 o'clock in the morning. The buses are coming down Black Rock Turnpike at 7 o'clock in the morning and traffic is stopped. That's what you're supposed to do. 4:15 and 5:15? No, traffic, people come at 5 o'clock. 4:15. And I went through this. I read this whole thing. I read the blueprints. I read everything. There's I don't want to hash over these things, but again, the sight line, one of the charts that was here, when it started out, the project right now at the existing conditions, and again, the sight lines and everything, well, turning, it was rated a B. Then after the building is built and everything is done, it turned in from a C to an A. Well, how does it get better with more traffic? Okay, I'm just asking. I don't know. I don't understand it. From you're adding 80 cars to Finn Street and it's getting better. And it only generates 37 cars in the morning and 39 at half in the afternoon. You're adding 80 cars on Finn and 83 cars on Biro and Haley, and it has no impact. I don't care what the statistics say. We have a quantitative analysis that can pick the statistics apart. It doesn't make any sense. And there's also part in table 4, the trip distribution. It added up to 100%, but there was nothing for a northbound Black Rock Turnpike via Finn Street, nor southbound Black Rock Turnpike from Poe Court. So that was missing out of this trip distribution. And then it said in the table 5, traffic input of 100 units on the area roadways and intersections will be limited. How do you limit 100 more apartments and probably over 160 cars? Also on page 7 also states after buildings complete, the flow out of Poe Court and Finn Street improves from a C to a B and a C to an A. How does traffic improve by adding that many cars? And he goes on and adding 170 cars won't affect the safety. Page 7, page 9, the traffic impact of the development will be limited. Well, there was a letter wrote to the commission from a retired traffic engineer who was born and raised in Fairfield, and he disagrees with that commentary. It's on record, Jay Coolis. One of our neighbors is a retired police officer. He disagrees also about the direct impact. And the study was conducted in December of January 25. There was some counters on the street a month ago. I didn't hear anything about that unless I didn't hear it. And that's kind of, I wanted to, everything was fresh in everybody's mind about the traffic report. I don't understand how you can add 167 cars to that area and not have it affect the roads. Talk about health and wellness. As we heard last week that there was an asbestos review done. It was posted. I went through it. I've had buildings that had asbestos in it that had to be removed. And another part of it was that nobody could understand last week or the week before, when there's a demolition, they have to file for asbestos demolition permit from the town of Fairfield. From the town of Fairfield has to get filed in the state, and the state files it all the way, and the EPA is also involved. If there's ever any problem, the EPA comes down and just takes care of it. And there's a paper trail. Again, there's a paper trail through all this asbestos. Once it gets put in that container and gets taken to Rhode Island, whoever signs for that, it's in the ground, you're responsible for that. My name is responsible for some asbestos that went to Rhode Island. So it's not anything to take lightly, because asbestos, as everyone knows, once it's disturbed, that's when it's a problem. So right now it's sitting there in the school. The school is loaded with asbestos. Tiles, the glue for the tiles, there's caulking around the windows, there's flashing. It's all over the school. It's not isolated in one position. It's all over. Once it starts getting removed, and they do it properly, I understand that, but the dust, that's the human carcinogen. That is what's gonna hurt me, hurt him, hurt my neighbors, if it's not done correctly. And even when it's done correctly, there's gonna be a problem. Let alone the demolition of the building. Mr. Randolph said 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was asking, what's the setback between the property line and the building? Again, nobody knew. Mr. Randolph knew it was 4.4 inches. I knew that. And what about on the other side? 6 inches. I knew that, but nobody else knew that. So now you're going to knock down this building and have a young man who just bought the house on Biro, on Finn Street, even though it's a Biro address, with his mom there and his aunt there, and they're gonna be listening. And what about the air quality outside? What about inside? There's gonna be dust that gets into people's yards and air inside their houses. It's not in the right place to build something like that. Okay, and I wrote a letter. It's too big. It covers all the property. It's just not the site. What about?
Can I just interrupt for 1 minute?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to make sure we're able to get to everyone this evening. How much more
Well-
do you expect to have?
Well, we don't have a lawyer. Okay, so I'm assuming I can get as much time as I wish.
Folks just raise their hand if they plan on actually speaking.
Oh, actually. Could I point out personal representative? I've got the Black Rock Turnpike matter. I have my consultant. I'm happy to stay, but I know you have Congress Street after this with testimony from Mr. Watts.
That's very good. I saw on the schedule that we have the Black Rock Turnpike project scheduled for decision next week. Is that deadline?
Well, we have to conduct the public hearing by the 15th of July.
Okay, I'll do it. I'm not looking, I just, whatever you want. I'll stay, but I have lingering doubts in terms of what's ahead on your agenda that will be reached tonight. So
That's why I wanted to
I'm
get.
happy to come back next week if you would prefer.
I'll eliminate some of what I have.
Mr. Davis, this is not meant in any way
No.
to slow you down. I just, again, I don't want to interrupt the commission on whatever you think I should do, I'll do.
Yeah, I mean, let's assume that we're not getting to Black Rock because we still have another item before we get to that.
Next week.
That's okay.
That's fine. Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Sorry.
No, Mr. Davis, please.
Continue.
I don't know if anybody knows this, but when that school was built, they had to do, they had to blast. They're gonna have to blast or they're gonna have to use a hammer drill. Again, my buddy that lives right there and across the street, and I'm 100 feet away. It's not gonna be a pleasant. There's houses 50 feet, 4 feet away, the dust, forget it. Quality of life for people that live in the area, there is no quality of life. It's gonna go downhill. The height of the building, this is going to be the largest, tallest building in Fairfield. There's no other building this tall. To Save the Children down the street, it's 2 stories above that. Go down to Save the Children and look at that. It's 2 stories above that. 76% of the property is covered. Okay? Where do the apartment dwellers go for outdoor wellness? There's nowhere to go. You got a 4-foot setback and you've got a 6-foot setback. Where are these people gonna go? The parking garages, you go up Black Rock Turnpike at 2 o'clock in the morning and the building that's on the corner of Castle and Black Rock Turnpike, the garage lights are on at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I assume they're on 24 hours a day. Who's gonna guarantee me that that's not gonna happen at that two levels of parking garages? The other point is there's no buffers. It's all residences. Every other project has a buffer. It has 95, it has the Merritt Parkway, it has woods, it has commercial sites. Every other property has a buffer. We don't have a buffer. We are the buffers. As, you know, Mr. Randolph said it last week, or the week before, what's the height of the buildings? 81.4 inches tall from grade. That's just way beyond anything. And the safety factors. I didn't see anything about the response to the fire issues. And there's tons of fire issues because if you looked at the code enforcement minutes from your meeting of February 18th, 2025, specifically the fire marshal's questions, he asked all those questions and they haven't been answered. No 360, fire access, fire the Fairfield Fire Overview says if a building is over 80 feet tall, it's a problem. The access roads, there's no turnarounds for a dead end over 150 feet. And as I told you 2 or 3 weeks ago, I told you what the length is. There's no turnarounds for a fire truck. And Mr. Versteg, he said, oh, a fire truck's only 8 feet wide. Well, you know what? I went to the firehouse. So this is a fact. This isn't statistics or anything. I went to the firehouse and I asked the fire people, how wide is the ladder truck? 10 feet wide without the stabilizers. I've watched them come up Viral Street with this truck and practice on the convent. And you know how they got out of Viral Street? They backed down, which is totally illegal. And I've got it on video if anybody'd like to see it. It's totally illegal. They cannot do that. There's not a proper turnaround. I don't care what Mr. Versteg says. I don't care what anybody says. There is not a proper turnaround. That's fact. It said right, the fire marshal said Fairfield Fire stated with project would be an extra workload, so they would have to hire a third party to do these inspections. Well, who's going to pay for those inspections? The town residences. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, somebody asked how many firefighter personnel are in the town of Fairfield. The answer again, 94. How many firefighters on duty? There's 24 firefighters on duty, 24-hour shifts. Other question that was in the fire marshals, the parking garage ramp is 20 feet wide. A two-way bypass should be 24 feet wide legally. Finn Street now has a fire zone in front of the building. How about visitor parking? There's no designated spot for visitor parking. They say that there's 163 spots. You've got 17 electric vehicle spots and you've got 6 ADA spots. That leaves 140 spots for 100 units. There's going to be people parking on the streets. There's going to be people parking everywhere. If there's a medical call to the building, if the address is Finn Street, where are they going to go? The fire, police, EMT responding, they will all respond to Finn Street. Okay? I am sure, this is just something that I wrote. I am sure when a 911 calls in the response will be to Finn Street, highly improbable that a person will say, you need to come to the back of the building on Byro and or Haley. They're not going to say that. There's a fire at Finn Street. They're going to come to Finn Street. And Mr. Versteg says, oh, you only need one truck. You do not need one truck. I spoke to the Fairfield Firefighters Union head, Bill Tuttle. He's been a firefighter in Fairfield for 23 years. I called him and I asked him if he would come to the meeting. He was on duty. And I said, well, I have you on the phone. Can I ask you some questions? He said, absolutely. My first question said, can firefighters battle a fire in this or any building of this size? And this is a quote. There is no system in place to fight fire in those buildings. Upon initial alarm, 4 engines, a ladder truck, a rescue truck, and a commander will respond. Don't let anyone tell you that the ladder truck is just a toolbox. It's totally untrue. You need 28 people for initial call, and we only have 24 on duty. And there is no automatic aid. Bridgeport, Westport, whoever you want to send, we have to call them to come to respond to fire, to help us fight a fire. It's not automatic. We have to call. I asked him another question. Do you need that many firefighters to respond if a building has sprinklers? He said, yes, you do. Most residents' contents are made of plastic. Once there is a flash, it takes about 4 minutes to spread. Firefighters going upstairs while residents exiting. If the building walls are breached and there's a fire in the walls, there are no sprinklers in the walls. Therefore, you need firefighters. Plus, smoke is just as dangerous or even more. There is no debate. We do not have effective firefighter force to handle these buildings. Per a statement by Bill Tuttle That's not our opinion. It's clear in the NAFA standard based on scientific evidence from National Institute of Standards and Technology, and the police force will also be overwhelmed. Another safety issue is there's no sidewalks on Finn Street, Ho Court, Black Rock Turnpike, Halley, or Biro. There's a little bit on Castle, but only until you get to the car dealership, there's sidewalks. People walk in the streets. Now you're adding 163 cars to the road. Sidewalks, again, will be, of course, an additional cost to the town residents. And I also strongly doubt that sidewalks would be installed as the size of roads, as we already talked about, 28 feet and 24 feet would not be enough, and it would be a detriment to the property lines. Everybody knows First Selectman Gerber is conducting a Safe Streets program for safety for our town-wide residences. It won't happen in our area because our streets aren't wide enough. There was another issue, and they proposed, people that are going to live in this development, they're going to be able to walk to the train station. I do not, in 42 years, I might have seen one person walk to the train station, and they don't even live on Finn Street. And so, again, I did my research like I always do, and I got facts. From the front door of the Finn Street entrance to the platform at the Metro train station is a 1.1 mile walk. There's no sidewalks until you get to 95. You have to cross 5 major roadways, Black Rock Turnpike and Kings Highway. So now I'm at the train station. So now I'm gonna go from Biro Street. From Biro Street to the Metro train station platform is a 1.0 mile walk. There are no sidewalks on Biro. The only time you get to sidewalks is when you come to Kings Highway. You cross 4 major roads, Black Rock Turnpike and Kings Highway. People will not walk to the train station. It's too long and it's too dangerous. It just won't happen. I don't care what anybody says, it will not happen. If anybody wants to see what the traffic is like, another associate of mine, the Castle Rock Association, has sent photos and a video with the traffic along the area streets, and it's on record. Another issue raised by Castle Avenue residents, their homes and basements get more water and moisture during rain. With a new water retention system under the building to collect water, then the water is distributed into the water table. The water table will change and water flows downhill, the least path of resistance. Their concern is additional flooding. The storm drain at the corner of Finn and Poe overflows with a heavy rain. I've called town many times, and the answer is the drain will not accommodate the amount of water. Water flows downhill.
Is this the last page?
Yes. Sorry. Another concern by the neighborhood, they're changing the zoning from the residential to the Biro Development District. Okay, and they're doing it so they can get financing. I hate to be rude, but what do we care about financing? If they're going to take this risk and reward. It has no concern on us. It has nothing to do with our health or our safety and our wellness. If they get a mortgage or loan or whatever, it has no concern. It should not be part of this this committee right now. However they do it, that's their problem. That's not our problem. Just a couple of notes. I saw a memorandum from Mr. Barnhart to Ms. Harrigan. She answered the questions. She answered his questions or with questions. Okay, and it's June 3rd, 2025. And there was another memorandum on file from William Hurley, the engineer, again, to Ms. Kerrigan, dated January, and it was all questions. There was no answers. And again, the code enforcement minutes from February 18th, the department heads asked the developers, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And none of them have been answered. A lot of it was the fire issues. None of them have been answered. It's like, we'll get it to you. We'll get it to you. Well, that should be that should be in black and white before anybody comes to the committee. And finally, this is a gross manipulation of the law. The law is to protect the citizens of Fairfield and the state. Local towns, Trumbull, Stratford, and Shelton have all rejected 830G projects. So you don't have to accept all these projects. If this particular project passes, then they all will, because our project is unique to Fairfield. Biggest, tallest, covers the most area. There have to be a point where we protect our residents and our people. Governor Lamont just vetoed the latest housing bill, so let's set a precedent and reject Biro Street. We haven't even discussed the proposed 105 Biro Street site. We're only talking about 108. What about 105 right across the street, 40 more units? That's not going to affect the streets or the people or the people's wellness or the people on Warren Street that are Warren Avenue, which abuts their backyards. There's beautiful trees right now. Now they're going to put a 40-unit project. What it does to the town's roads, the services, it just continues on and on. Okay. And to finish, the sale of this school is pending. Hasn't been sold. It's pending. Okay. And also, there's some homes in the close proximity that the sales are pending as part of this project. Okay? An old adage, no harm, no foul. Oh, I think I got my point across. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. I appreciate it. I mean, we've been here long nights and everything, and I sent a letter 3 or 4 weeks ago before we got here, talked about just the construction part of the project. You should, if you haven't read it, you should read it. Because my father was in the grocery business, and he would say that you're trying to put 10 pounds of bananas in a 5-pound bag. And that's what they're trying to do. And it's outrageous that someone would even think of trying to do something like this. I'm done. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask him a question?
Sure, you can ask me anything.
We're not doing questions. We're gonna keep this moving.
Okay, so they get the amount of time and the questions and the answers.
It's not about the amount of time. I think we give you a lot of time.
We did, but I also asked for it and nobody said yes or no.
It's not a substantive question, it's a procedural question.
Please, you
I
mentioned.
just want to ask him if that firefighter that he seemed to be reading from a report. Can you submit that report from Mr. Tuttle, a fireman? Do you have it in writing, and can you submit that?
I can give you a copy of what I just said.
Is that signed by Mr. Tuttle, the fireman expert?
No, it's not. I can get it signed though. I don't have a problem.
I think if you're referencing an expert witness, that witness should provide something in writing.
He would have been here, but he's on duty tonight.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, as you saw, when we have an attorney or someone who reaches out to us in advance to request additional time, we try to grant that. I'm gonna ask everyone else to state your name, address, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes so we can get to everyone in the room and folks who are online. We have a 10 o'clock curfew and it is 10 after 9.
That's just my note.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please.
3 minutes, huh? I can't tell time.
Good evening, Commissioner. My name is Kevin Berry. I live at 364 Halley Avenue. Been there about 30 years. And if you guys don't know where 364 is, I overlooked parking of the abandoned school parking spaces there. And I'm going to try to brief this up now that you've asked for 3 minutes, but a couple points I'll make. First of all, there's been a lot of misleading information that has come out, in my opinion. And it fails to depict the impact of Finn and Polk Court, as well as the other surrounding places. Commissioner Braun
correctly pointed out, existing neighborhood topography and residential homes obscure the building's frontage. This is based on the rendering that was provided by the developer. Fire safety and concerns, the extreme density of this building raises serious questions about emergency response and access. Commissioner Randolph logically highlighted the issue of maneuverability. Fire personnel have struggled to navigate such a huge, tight footprint. Additionally, there has been no clear plan addressing how fire trucks will turn around safely on Halley or Biro. Traffic congestion and risk. The impact of traffic cannot be understated. This development's traffic funnels directly into Kings Highway and Black Rock Turnpike. That's the key part here. Just looking at Castle Avenue, Biro, and all the other small, tight little streets does not depict much traffic. There's hardly any traffic there. I could have saved them money on that report. When you start funneling that into Black Rock and Kings Highway, there's going to be issues. Referencing my previous letter to the commissioner labeled Map of Castle Ave Developments, which was brought up partially today, talking about some of the traffic, shows a number of units and parking with all developments completed near Castle Avenue. Total, 216 units, 303 parking spaces. Of that, 223 parking spaces total from 108 Biro Street, which would be 167, and 56 additional for the upcoming proposed 105 Biro Street. We urge you to strongly consider Mr. J. Coulis's letter concerning traffic and safety around 108 Biro. Mr. Coulis is a retired traffic engineer who grew up on Napt Highway in Fairfield, is therefore an experienced voice in safety concerns from this over-the-top proposal. He might be online, he might have a few things to say as well. Personally, on a personal note, like I said, we're at 364 Halley Avenue. So under disruption of personal environment, we are directly across, like I said, from the existing parking lot of the abandoned school. This proposed 85 to 90-foot building and its proposed footprint threatens our personal environment. Halley Ave is about 28 feet wide. The building side of Halley is about 10 feet, 5 inches from Halley Ave itself. So that makes the difference from the proposed 80+ feet side of the building, approximately 40 feet from our property. 40 feet, okay?
Please wrap up.
Yep. So that would mean, in our opinion, there'd be an overshadowing and privacy issue. And certainly I can argue the point about property values going either way. Our neighborhood is not opposed to thoughtful community consensus development on 108 Biro. However, there's little justification for altering the existing C residential zoning, which already supports single family and fourplex multifamily homes based on appropriate lot size. With creativity and some common sense, a responsible developer can produce a duplex or low-rise townhouse community that respects the scale and character of the neighborhood. A prime example is 168 Kings Highway in Southport, where the developer scaled back an overly aggressive proposed in favor of higher-end townhome-style apartments that integrate seamlessly with the surrounding community. That's from the Fairfield Citizen, February 28, 2025. Lastly, we urge you to reject this amendment and insist on a development that enhances, not disrupts, our neighborhood's safety, character, and quality of life. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question procedurally. Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Commissioner Braun, please.
When these neighbors talk about expert witnesses that they have, I think two of them mentioned a traffic expert that lives in the area. I feel like it's important for us to ask for copies of those comments from those experts because we don't have our own experts and we probably need one on something like this. So if we're not going to hire our own traffic expert or stormwater expert, we should seek the expertise of that these people are relying on. They apparently spoken to experts, but perhaps didn't have the budget to retain one. So I would like to ask these neighbors if they've talked to a stormwater expert, a traffic expert, a fire expert. I'd like to get those comments in writing so we have information so we can be fully informed before we render a decision on this matter. Thank you.
Jay Coolis, one of the experts, is in the correspondence, but we could do that. But Jay Coolis is
He has a
in.
letter on record.
He has a letter on record stating that he is. Anyway, I'm Celeste Davis. I live on Finn Street. I live on Finn Street. So I'm well aware of the neighborhood. The proposed buildings, front entrance and parking garage entry will be on Finn Street. If this building is approved, who's gonna monitor the construction? There has been a lot of questions about the ramp for the parking garage. And again, I know that you have a process. This has been a process for all of us, an eye-opening process. And we know that the building department will take care of some of these things, but we need to watch this very closely because a lot of questions during this process have not been answered. The experts that were brought in, and we can't afford experts. We're just doing our own legwork and whatever, but the experts that were brought in, probably at a very high price, they couldn't answer a lot of the questions. This structure does not belong in our town. It's too big for our neighborhood. I used to worry about kids who lived in Fairfield their whole lives. How could they afford to stay here? Many cannot. I used to worry about would I want to stay here? I'm retired now. We had plans to stay here. We never thought like this was going to happen in our neighborhood. I never thought this ugly building would be in my backyard. Please do the right thing and deny this. Have them come back with a smaller plan. Oh, that's right. They haven't purchased the building yet. They're not willing to take that risk. We're not afraid of development. We fully expected something to be built there. But it's got to be something in keeping that truly is affordable. Something smaller, something that is not taking up 100% of the space. Because when you start building something like this, blasting because you got to put in a parking garage, all of these other changes, who's going to be there to help the neighbors in the neighborhood when all of these things happen? And they will. It's not probably. They will. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rob Blanchard. I'm a member of the RTM representing this neighborhood for the 6th District. I live at 1401 Kings Highway, apartment 418A, which is, yes, an apartment building that is transit oriented. I've also spent 2 years in a previous life on the Planning and Zoning Commission, so I do know sort of the difficult work that is before you. And in the last week, I'm especially familiar with housing laws, given my day job, but I also know the high bar that comes with 830G. I also know that a lot of my responsibility is coming before this commission or monitoring these issues as a member of the RTM, not even the Planning and Zoning Commission, because my district has seen the greatest number of 830G applications and a lot of development that has certainly impacted the community, from racial imbalance to traffic and other quality of life issues. I'm realistic about this proposal. I know that you can't outright deny it. I know that it is an attractive parcel that is ripe for development and that we are in the midst of a housing crisis. I myself am trying to find a home, and it is a pretty miserable experience for my wife and child. But I do think that this proposal is too large for this particular parcel. And when you build essentially 100% of the footprint, you don't allow for things like buffering, runoff, emergency access, and other things like that that would make this a livable and appropriate use for the space. I also think that the traffic study that was used is a bit flawed. The Soundview and Tunxus proposal, which I was last here monitoring, called for 24 PM trips for 46 units, and this has 100 units and only calls for 39 units. I thought that both are flawed, but I especially think that math doesn't line up, and you probably see closer to 51 trips or more given that math. This isn't 2020, it's not 2021. I think people are starting to commute again. Only 20% or so of employees are actually telecommuting, so you'll see a lot more traffic. Also, This is not what we had in mind as a community or a state when it comes to transit-oriented development. To go from this apartment to the nearest train station is a very difficult walk. Are there sidewalks? Yes. Are there crosswalks? Yes, but they don't align in a way that is walkable or safe for pedestrians. And lastly, if we are going to talk health, which is another area here that I think is important to address, you are going to have a lot more trips, as I said, and a lot more cars. And while we are trying to encourage the use of electric vehicles, and I do salute the developer for adding a lot of electric vehicle charging stations, you're going to still see a lot of gas-powered vehicles, which in an area of our state, Fairfield County, which has among the worst air quality in all of New England, you will see it exacerbated by increased traffic, also adjacent to 95, that will have an impact on the health and well-being of neighbors. And so I want to wrap up by saying I do think that this is an area that could be nice for middle housing, townhomes. I know that it has to pencil out and profit for a developer. I fully understand that. But the safety of residents trying to evacuate that building in the midst of an emergency also has to pencil out. And as Commissioner Randolph mentioned, I don't think it does in this case. And so I'd worry about residents, I'd worry about emergency personnel, I'd worry about people trying to walk or commute to work, and I'd worry about what we're trying to do, which is achieve a high quality of life, an affordable housing initiative, all without that balancing out in a way that could adversely impact the community. And so I do think that this ought to be rejected as is, and we ought to work to find a proposal that is better suited for the community while also achieving affordable housing goals. So thank you.
Hi there. My name is Steve Hladek. I reside at 226 Castle Avenue, but I also am president of the Castle Rock Condo Association, representing the interests of 220, 222, 224, and 226 Castle Avenues. We oppose this development. A couple of points. There's 163 spots, if I remember from the architectural plans. 6 are earmarked for, I believe, ADA. 17 are for electric vehicles. What hasn't been answered is how many of these spots are reserved, and that's I would ask that you ask that question, which leaves, by my back of the napkin math, 140 spots, which is slightly above the recommendation of 1.36 per unit for the International Traffic Engineering Association. Commissioner Randolph mentioned turnarounds. We're in a unique position on the corner of Castle and Haley Avenue. We can see when an emergency assistance call is made that fire trucks stop on Castle. Our firefighters take a go bag and run up Haley. They do not have the turnaround access to back in or even render assistance without taking their go bag and running to render assistance. We've seen this several times over the past 8 months. And I think the big elephant in the room is the subject of peak hours. Peak hours from 4:15 to 5:15 p.m. doesn't take into account people actually pedestrians walking the streets on Castle. I can be outside at 6 o'clock in the evening on my front porch saying that watching vehicles and people pass by. It also doesn't take into account church on Bureau Street on Sundays. That becomes a 1-lane road and makes it very dangerous for cars to pass by in both directions. The average width of a vehicle, if you just search on Google, is about 5.8 feet. On these thin roads, on these very narrow roads, it makes it very difficult just to drive on these roads. I ask you guys to ask you commissioners to drive on Castle Avenue, make a left on Benton towards onto Castle, towards Bureau and onto Longfellow, and see how narrow these roads are. It's only, I fear that it's only going to get worse. And we say the Mr. Bellis has said that things have to be quantifiable. We can quantify this by our real world experience. It's bad now, and I fear it's only going to get worse. I'd ask the traffic study to do a parking. He's a traffic engineer. What's the impact of the overflow that's going to be on Haley, Bureau, Castle? Because people are, by behavior, people are only going to drive up, drive into the garage, see that it's full. Are you really expecting them to go all the way up to Finn to hope that on a wing and a prayer that there's gonna be parking available? And I've said enough. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Devaney. My daughter and I own a house at 123 Biro. She resides there. I don't want to get too repetitive, but the commissioner's question about making turns on Biro. Outside is a 2022 Ford F-250. That's mine. I have to make a 3-point turn. I can only imagine what an Amazon truck would have to do, or something larger. And on a good day, my wife hits Amazon and they're at my house 2 or 3 times. Now you got 100 apartments. You can imagine how many trucks are going to be there then. My only other point is, I don't know if it's supposed to be that, but they give the traffic from 8 to 9. They do their study. I was a fireman when I lived in New York. I switched plates. I became a law enforcement in a major department south of here. My first house was way up by GE. I could leave my house at 6:30 and make lineup at 7. As the years rode on with all the traffic, I think that the study should be done earlier. Now to get to anywhere south of here, you have to leave much more than a half hour. You probably can't make Southport in a half hour from exit 24. That's all. Just bring that point up with the traffic. I think the time should be adjusted for when they check it. 8 to 9, that doesn't really reflect traffic in and out. Thank you for your time.
Hi, Teresa Bell. I'm at 295 Castle Avenue. Have lived there 21 years. So our house is the corner of Castle and Biro, and our driveway is right on Biro. And I will tell you, as it is now, the area is very congested as it is. I can't imagine now, and I do think you have to look at 108 Biro and 105 Biro. You cannot separate the two, because now we have 140 units right up the block from our house. And we have enough trouble getting in and out of our driveway as it is. I cannot imagine what things are gonna be like if we have 140 units there. I agree with the gentleman who just said the traffic. I commute into New York City 3 days a week, and we drive because it is a very dangerous walk. So we drive, and traffic study really should be done from 6 AM till about 9 AM. And the schools go back and forth during the school season up and down Castle Avenue, so there's a lot of school buses. Traffic really in the afternoon is really from, I'd say, 3 o'clock, probably till about 7 or 8 o'clock. Again, we go to church at St. Emery's. We have no parking. Everyone parks on the streets. So and I will tell you right now, we have a 4-way stop sign. Stop signs, they're optional. It really is in that neighborhood lately. Everyone just flies through the stop sign as it is. Talking about doing a speeding test, everyone speeds on that road. Castle Avenue is a major cut through to get down to Kings Highway, to get up to Jennings, to get out to Black Rock Turnpike. It is just, it's hard as it is right now. So I think it is very health and safety for these types of units. And look, I understand the need for affordable housing. I get that. But these are inappropriate to have these size of buildings and this type of neighborhood. I think it's gonna be very dangerous, and people are gonna get hurt, if not killed. I respectfully ask the commission to just think about this. 2 quick things, really. One of the things they brought up also was like a sewer pipe in the beginning, where one of the experts said they didn't think they actually, I think somebody had said they had to put a new sewer pipe in, and the expert said, oh, I don't think we need to do that. As someone who lives in the area, I'm kind of concerned about whether there's adequate sewage going in. And just to also second what somebody else said about visitor parking, like with these parking, certain apartment buildings charge for parking. I don't know parking to be included in the rent or if it's extra. If it's extra, these people are gonna park on the street. As it is, we have very limited parking. A lot of people park on the street for the church on Sundays. Biro is taken up on both sides of the street and all up and down Castle Avenue. So it's just, please think more about if we could do something small. I would appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Dariusz Makarski. I live on 1375 Bronson Road. I own I own a property on Castle Avenue. Few things. Nobody said anything about the winter time. The snow's gonna be pushed in on the side of the road. The traffic's gonna be tremendous. Second thing, where the kids and how the kids gonna walk to the school bus. Nobody never said anything about that. There's no sidewalks. If people park on both sides of the road is gonna be narrow. If people's gonna be coming with the traffic, how you accommodate that? So that's a big issue, and nobody said anything about that. Another problem, if they're gonna dump all the water on the ground, I own the house below. If I get the water in the basement, who's gonna be responsible for that? I mean, as of right now, the school dumps all the water, the drainage into the sewer system. If they're gonna put in all the infiltration system in the ground, I'm assuming all that water is gonna just go down the hill because it's a ledge under. So if I'm gonna get the water in the basement, who's gonna be responsible? I mean, town's gonna be responsible, the builder's gonna be responsible for that? So something's gotta be done. I mean, I'm not against the project. I mean, they build the nice condos across the street from me. Really nice. I mean, if they wanna build something at the school, no problem. 15, 17 units condo, no problem. But the amount of traffic and the eyesore for a building, I think it's really bad for a neighborhood. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the room who wishes to speak on this item? Sorry, do we have folks signed in? Is there, if anyone is joining remotely who wishes to be heard on this item, please raise your hand or indicate that in the chat. Okay, one last call. Anyone in the room or online who wishes to be heard? Okay, I will end the public comment on this item. Attorney Bellis, I'll turn to you for rebuttal.
I'll be brief, but I just have a couple of points I just wanted to point out. I'd like to refer the commission to
Can't hear you.
I'd like to refer the commission to Mr. Versteeg's report of June 23rd, 2025, so that we can put this to bed about the fire department access, okay? So in that report, he states that a portion of the Connecticut Fire Safety Code, Appendix D, concerning fire department access was deleted, right? And then it was amended during the adoption of the Connecticut Fire Safety Code. So that code requires a fire truck to be able to drive to within 50 feet of an exterior door. And so it has to do that within 150 feet. Otherwise, you need a cul-de-sac or a turn. So fire trucks that are entering Biro Street or Haley Avenue from Castle Avenue only have to drive a distance of 130 feet and 137 feet to be within that 50 feet of the garage entrance. So neither of those exceeds the code, which talks about the 150 foot requiring a cul-de-sac. So I just wanted to put that to bed, that there is no violation of code for fire department vehicle access the way this building's been designed. The other issue I wanted to raise is the ramp. The driveway ramp is intended for vehicle traffic, and it is not intended to serve pedestrian foot traffic. And that ramp, as the commissioner pointed out, is a 1 in 10 slope, which is acceptable So as far as the slope is concerned, it is not in violation of any state building codes. Traffic, I think the traffic issue, I understand that traffic in general is a problem throughout Connecticut. I drive to New Haven on the Merritt every day. I know, I understand that traffic is a problem, but according to Connecticut case law, an increase in traffic itself is not enough to deny an affordable housing application. I do believe that in this particular case, that the traffic that a school had would have been more intense than an apartment building. So I don't think this is an actual increase in the amount of traffic at particular points in the day. There was talk about the concern about getting the building demolished. I'm not gonna go through all that, but obviously there are building demolition permits that have to be pulled, and people have to abide by the building code, and there's very close scrutiny as far as removing asbestos from buildings. It's done all the time, and that's why you have the pre-report done so that it can be handled properly. As far as construction is concerned, that is something that's with the building department, and a lot of those code review comments were specifically addressing, hey, guys, when you build, you need to do A, B, C, or D. That's not a function of the zoning commission. The function of the zoning commission, at least for 830G applications, are whether there are quantifiable, substantial, and specific harms that you can identify that can't be remedied through a reasonable change. That's the task to do. Whether we like the law or not is not relevant. What is relevant is if this building complies, which I believe it does, with all of the codes, then I believe that there is no specific issue that I'm aware of that we have not addressed as far as safety or health. I get concerns. I understand it may not be aesthetically appeasing to some people. I understand that some people feel that it may be too dense, but that's not what the law has set forth. We all know under Beach Road that density was not one of the issues that we could look at. Height of the building was not something we could look at in and of itself. So I think that we made it perfectly clear that this is going to be a high-end apartment building that is going to have affordable units in it, and that there's plenty of parking in the building itself to keep people from spilling out onto the streets. And that the developer was willing to pay that extra amount of money for the second garage level. And that was the reason for it. Just to keep the building, to keep the people in the building that are parking there. That's not to say that you can't park on surrounding streets, but that wasn't the goal here. So I think that in summary, I think we have addressed all of the concerns that you have raised as a commission. But if there is something specific, obviously you know the law, you can ask us to make a reasonable change, and if we think it's reasonable, we'll try and do it. I just don't know what that would be at this time.
Commissioner Braun, are you raising your hand on this?
Yes.
Go ahead.
About the fire test that was that done by the Fairfield Fire Department? And if so, one of the neighbors mentioned a video. Do you have access to that, or is that in the record?
Is that addressed to me?
Yes.
To Attorney Bellis?
Yes.
I don't have that record, no.
What was there a fire access test done by the fire department where the fire truck had to back down the road?
No, that wasn't my testimony. My testimony was that I referred the commission to a June 23rd, 2025 report that Mr. Versteeg prepared, and it analyzed the Connecticut Fire Safety Code as far as vehicle fire department access. That,
Commissioner Braun, I think you're thinking of there's a member of the public who testified about seeing a fire truck back up.
that wasn't me.
Are you aware of that? And do you have any records pertaining to that?
Me, no, I'm not aware of it, and I do not have any records.
And if in fact that did take place and a truck had to back down the road, does that go along with what you said that, is that considered acceptable to have a fire truck back down the road to exit?
Yes, the code says that you need to get within 50 feet of an entrance before you reach 150 feet. That's what the code says. That's the fire code that we all abide by for the state of Connecticut. And what I'm telling you is, in his report, I'm pointing out that the distance in this particular case was only 130 and 137 feet. So you were within the 150 feet. That was my testimony.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Randolph.
Just to clarify a point on this, your distances aren't consistent with the distances that I measured as a licensed architect in a different state. And Mr. Versteeg's report says specifically, and it's on page, I think it's on this, it's on the first page.
First page.
Fire Department Vehicle Access. It says Section 503 and Appendix D of the 2021 IFC addressing fire department access was deleted and amended
Correct.
during the adoption of the Connecticut Fire Safety Code.
Agreed.
Now, I've done some additional research on this since reading that, and that is factually correct, but it is intentionally misleading. Because Section 503 and Appendix D, and I'm reading this to the record now, were retained by the Connecticut but amended during the adoption of 2022 Fire Safety Code. These sections remain in full force as modified, including mandatory turnaround requirements for dead-end fire apparatus access roads longer than 150 feet, which does pertain to these two streets. As specified in the amended Appendix D 103.4 and Figure D 103.1. So Mr. Versteeg's correct in saying they were amended and deleted, but he failed to mention that they were still in force. They were revised. So I just want to point that out, that was intentionally misleading, and I don't appreciate that. Now, secondly, Mr. Versteeg is the one who deleted and amended those parts of the code in 2021. So he should know better, because he's the person who made that application to correct and amend that. So I'm just putting that in the record.
Well,
And I'm not asking for any response. I'm putting that in the record, okay?
I have no problem with that, except he does say "and amended" during the adoption of the Connecticut Fire Safety Code. So I don't think he was being misleading. He specifically says it. I don't know what report you're referring to. I'm referring to June 23rd, 2025. And he says it in black and white that, just as you say, the fire department access was deleted, but then he says "and amended" during the adoption of the Connecticut Fire Safety Code. So I don't think he was being misleading. And then in the next paragraph, he talks about the Connecticut Fire Safety Code. So I just disagree with your
So
misleading part.
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Those turnaround requirements and your interpretation of Mr. Versteeg's letter are still applicable.
I think what he's saying is, if you can get to the doors within 50 feet of the garage entrances before 150 feet, right? And in this case, it's 130 feet and 137 feet, then you do not need turnaround. Did I say that right?
If that's the case.
If that's the case.
Which is not the case in this instance.
I guess we'll have to agree to disagree.
Well, the measurement from the street, and there was a video provided by the condo association. Did you see that video?
No, what he's referring.
I'm just asking you, did you see the video by the condo association?
I did not see the video.
Of the garbage truck.
No.
It's in the record.
Okay.
and the garbage truck has to back in to the street because there's no place for it to turn around. A garbage truck.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
He has a video of it, so how could you disagree?
Time.
I said I didn't disagree with it.
That's, I just want to get that the record, so, thank you.
Fair enough.
All right, so that will conclude, I'll close the public hearing on this item. Thank you,
Appreciate all of you
gentlemen,
for your time.
for participation. And we'll move very briefly to the last item.
1477.
It sure is. Items 4 and 5, zoning regulation amendment, application of 1477 Congress Street LLC to establish a new section 5.4 Congress Street Affordable Housing District pursuant to section 830G of the Connecticut General Statutes, and 1477 Congress Street zone change application of 1477 Congress Street LLC to establish a Congress Street Affordable Housing District on land presently zoned resident AAA. Attorney Bellis, the last time we met, there was one, I believe, one outstanding piece of expert report,
Yeah, a traffic study, right?
traffic study that we were waiting on it to be submitted, and then Attorney Green needed time to review anyway. Is the plan for you to? Mr. Quad?
Yes, I'll be very brief.
Okay,
I know you only have 10 minutes.
we have 12 minutes.
Yeah, I'll let him go for 12 minutes.
Okay.
Right, again, for the record, Colonel Qua. Similarly, we for the 39 units, we're looking at, we can AM trip 17 trips. We can PM trip 21 trips. We did a traffic count in April 2025 and did the same thing, seasonally adjusted to the peak summer month of 2025. And assuming the build year is 3 years out, 2028, we looked at a 2028 level of service at 3 intersections. One is the driveway intersection at Congress Street. The second is Hoyden Hill Road and Congress Street. The third is the Route 15 westbound off ramp and Congress Street. So all these 3 intersections will operate at level of service A, B, or C, when all these units are in and occupied. Separately, we looked at the accidents on Congress Street between Hoyden's Hill Road and Morehouse Highway, which is the intersection further to the north. During a 3-year period, there were 2 accidents, both side swipes. So nothing significant, jumping out of the meat during the 3-year period. So overall, little traffic impact, and the level of service will be, A, B, or C acceptable when these units are occupied. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
We did submit the traffic study. It's been uploaded, and it's, as an exhibit.
Okay, thank you. Question, Commissioner Braun, are you raising your hand?
Can you tell us the date in April that you did the traffic counts?
Okay, let me go to my files again.
What year was that? 24?
This year, April
Of 25?
April 25, right?
What was the date?
Hold on. April 9th, 2025. That's the date of the traffic count.
And the accidents go from 22 to 24. When in 24, was that the end of 24?
Yeah, 2022, 2023, and 2024. So all 3 years.
The full year?
Yeah, 3 full years.
Okay, and then just looking at your service levels on the different intersections, because I can't compare 2 pages that are not adjacent to each other. Did any service level go down? For future reference, if you could put them next to each other, it would really be helpful. Otherwise, it's really hard to compare.
Well, if it does, they do not fit on one page, there's not much I can do.
I'm sure there's a way of doing it. I've seen it on every other report side by side, but do any service levels go down?
There's one standout at eastbound Hoyden Hills Road at the Congress Street. During the afternoon peak hour will drop from an A to a B. That's between the no build and build conditions.
So eastbound Hoydens Hill Road, Congress Street.
Right.
I see, existing conditions is a C level service in the morning and an A in the afternoon.
Right.
And
No,
then,
no build of C and A. It will be C and B when it is built.
I'm sorry, is it Congress Street and Hoydens Hill eastbound?
Right, eastbound Hoyden Hills Road approach at Congress Street, that T intersection. Afternoon peak hour will drop from an existing and no build A to a future B.
Okay, so that's the only service level that goes down. And why, that's because of traffic
Yeah,
exiting this
because
property going up Hoydens Hill?
no, because the additional through traffic on Congress Street are as a result of this development.
Okay, thank you.
Questions from other commissioners? Okay, thank you, Mr. Raw. Was that your last expert?
Yes, the answer is yes. I know that I had told Joel that we could put this over to the next meeting.
I mean, we're certainly gonna have to push the public comment to the next period, next meeting rather.
I'll give my closing remarks
Yeah,
then too, is what I'm trying to get at.
Initial presentation that we.
There's no other witnesses.
Okay. We can close the initial presentation today. I don't, have public comment next week.
Oh, I think he was hoping to do closing comments.
I can do closing
And
comment.
close
Yeah,
out.
they're gonna be short.
So we close it.
I could do it next week, very quickly.
Rebuttal.
No, my closing remarks. I know you want to leave, so that's why.
No, I mean, we have a curfew. If we can, we've.
Let me just say it now quick for 5 minutes.
Yeah, please.
Okay. I was trying to accommodate you guys.
No, I mean, I think we need to squeeze in every.
As much as we can,
bit
please.
We can.
I'll be glad to do it. All right, so on this particular application, we're seeking a zone change from the AAA to the Congress Affordable Housing District. It's under 8-30G. And I gave you the text amendment, which limits the zone change to this particular property. And again, I don't know if you recall that these were done under conceptual site plans, which we're allowed to do under the statute. And if this zone change were to be approved, we would have to come back before this commission with final site plans so that you could analyze those final site plans against the text amendment that had been passed. So I think in this particular case, the zone change and text amendment should be approved because the evidence that we presented demonstrates that there's both sewer and water available to the site. And that the traffic study concludes that the traffic impact will be negligible according to the traffic study that was submitted. Again, the commission's familiar with the standard, so I'm not going to go through it. Absent a quantifiable probability that a specific harm will result, then the commission should grant the application. Any concerns or theoretical possibilities are not sufficient to deny an 830G application. So at this point, what you have is the traffic study. You have the reports from Jason Edwards as to the availability of sewer and water. You have the property survey, the affordability plan that we've given you that designates which units are affordable, the conceptual site and building plans, the water service, the sewer connection plan. And based on those exhibits, I think that there's no health or safety issues that outweigh the need for affordable housing on this particular site.
Okay.
Did I make it?
You made it.
There you go.
I have a quick question. please.
Just a housekeeping matter, if I may, Joel Green for the.
I know who you are.
The plans are online, but unfortunately, even though they're conceptual, the dimensions on the survey and on the site plans are not legible. That
Oh, they didn't.
They look like they're rough scans, so they're very difficult to read. So you can't, in the grid, and if you look at the site plan, you have them in front of you, you can't make out the figures on the numbers that are there. So it would be helpful, the applicant could submit them in a format so that they can be read.
I have no problem doing it.
Okay, I think you'll provide those before next week's meeting.
Yeah, or you want me to bring them to the meeting? Well,
You can we get them by Thursday so that?
Yeah.
By this Thursday, that.
yeah, maybe it didn't
You're not
scan
gonna be
right.
Here Friday, I hope.
Oh, yeah, none of us are.
So,
I'll do my best to get them a clean copy.
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, so we will conclude the applicant's presentation and we will begin public comment next week. So we will hold this item open until then and adjourn. Evening. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.